Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy. The dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case.
That crap.
Dahil mihi Anglican po yung servo club.
That's literally not true.
Oh, from safe.
Alrighty. Let's turn this down just a little bit. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. We have it was a busy day yesterday, and I don't know, I slept a lot last night. Like, I was still sleeping early this morning. Need a little battery cable here so I can charge my phone. All right, we'll get there. All right, all's good. Everything is good in the world now. It was not earlier. Oh, one more device. All right. Welcome. I would have started on time. I promise. I was in my chair on time, but I was still finishing my croissant for breakfast because I went to Sam's Club yesterday and they were selling croissants, and I wanted a croissant. And so I got soup for Mrs. R.A. and I got a croissant I got a whole tray of, because you can't just buy one at Sam's Club. For those that don't know, Sam's Club is a buy it in bulk store. In the future, in the days of like Wally, in the future, they would call this buy and large. But no, it's a buy in bulk is what it is. Alrighty. Mrs. R.A. is feeling better, but not all the way better. Is that fair? All right. She had some amazing tomato basil soup yesterday, though. I heated it. I should get some credit because I warmed it up. It was pre-made when I bought it, but I heated it up and delivered it to her, so it's as if I cooked it. Need a battery over here. There we go. All right. Let's see. Love the Wall-E reference. My favorite Disney movie. Let's see. What else is happening today? It's 1 a.m. here. Who needs sleep, says Cherie. Yeah, sleep is overrated, right? It's definitely overrated. We need to actually celebrate Erica843, who once again today has won the internet. Erica843, you figured it out. I'm not sure what change you made, but it's working. It's working. You're showing up first in chat every morning, and that is great. Congratulations to you. The punishment for doing that is that we sentence you with keeping the internet running. And I have to say, these last couple days, the internet has been challenging to keep running. YouTube in particular has had its share of little mishaps and woes. So you're going to be responsible not just for the individuals who have internet trouble, but for the corporations as well. So expect that call from YouTube CEO saying, hey, can you fix it? And your answer is yes, I'll be right on it. So thank you very much, Erica. Appreciate you being first in chat. Congratulations there. Somebody has to do it, right? Lindsay Lewis says, thank you for whomever gifted me my membership. Thank you. If it happened this morning, I missed it, Lindsay. I'm sorry. Sorry if I missed anyone this morning. Okay. What else do we have going on this morning? A Cinnabon for dessert. Oh, my goodness. Here's what I'm going to do. I believe there's one more cinnamon roll left, and it has my name on it. But if I eat it, I will fall asleep because the sugar high and then the sugar low that immediately follows is too much for me to handle. And you guys, if I sleep the 3 days in a row on stream, I'll never live it down. Okay, Buffer. Shauna has a birthday today. IIH Supergirl has a 24th wedding anniversary on Christmas Eve. Happiest of birthdays and anniversaries to anyone celebrating. So Shauna has a birthday. Does anyone else need a birthday song celebration? please let us know. So I will get the song ready. There it is. A Golden Girl. Merry Christmas to all. Wonderful. I think I ran into you over on, well, it was either on Kurt or on Melanie Little's channel as we hopped between different streams last night. Talked about that Maya ruling about the juror, that the judge has ordered the Juror 1 interview. Limited, but he's ordered it. And it's going to happen on the 3rd of January. I have to announce right now I am not able to go. Like, I already have a conflict because Mrs. R.A. is flying out that night to take my son to college and help him get settled in there. So I will not be there in person. Now, that doesn't mean we won't have the live stream. But I'm going to try to find out from the court what the media setup is. And once we know that, then we can figure out. Let's see. It popped up one of my questions, but didn't get the full answer. Then we can figure out. It may be something I send the live view down and hire somebody, a tech, to just sit there and plug everything in, configure it, and run it. I would actually configure it from here. But see, I popped up your question, Melissa. Where was your question? Let's see. I got Melissa. Where's your question? Was it on today's live stream or a previous one? Oh, okay. Jaron McDonald, Jennifer says to Sharon, and I intercepted it. My husband Jared's 40th birthday. We're going to add Jared to the list. So Jared and Shauna, right? Hold tight. Let me get my list ready. If you hear poorly played guitar in the background, my youngest son has discovered the guitar, and he's playing mine nonstop. I think his fingers will be bleeding by the time he stops. Shauna and Jared. Let's see. Add Melee. And we got Jared, so let's add Melee. It is Melee, right? Like, it sounds like another word, but it's spelled differently. It was last night about your number one. Melissa, you might have to ask it again, because I do have the memory of a goldfish, meaning 10 seconds after you tell me something, it's gone. It's just gone. That's why I write down the birthdays in the morning. Happy birthday to Bruno, our Labrador. 9th birthday today. After birthday's going to call in. Yes, for sure. We'll do that before we start. And don't let me forget. Just call the burner phone after everything happens. It's Melee. I like Melee. But Melee, let's say Melee. Because it's spelled like sleigh, right? Isn't that the same spelling of sleigh? We'll say Melee just for you, Amber. Patricia D, welcome. Thanks for popping in. Have a lot of meetings this morning, so I'm not going to be able to listen. Have a good day. We'll catch you on the repeat, I'm sure. That's going to be a fun day. All right. This is all I've got. I've got Shauna, Jared, Melee, and we're going to add Bruno. Even though we don't talk about Bruno, we're going to talk about Bruno this morning. At least in the song. Everybody warm up. La 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 la. Okay, scales are done. Stand up, deep breath, shoulders back. Eyes on me, please. Blend with your neighbor. Blend your voices. We don't want no solos here. No solos. Here we go. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Shauna, Jared, Melee, and Bruno. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Shauna, Jared, and Melee, and Bruno. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Yeah. Have a wonderful birthday. Have a wonderful birthday. It's a great day to celebrate a birthday because it's yours. And in all your celebrations, amongst all the many fun things you do today, including getting free pancakes at Denny's or wherever you choose to do so. The fact that you're here is celebrating with us is not lost on us. It's our privilege and pleasure and honor to be here with you on your special day. So congratulations. If there's anything we can do to make it better, please let me know. And if anyone else is celebrating their birthday and we missed them this morning, please know we sang to you in our hearts. We sang to you in our hearts. All right, and we got the cha-cha-cha out of Tash, which is wonderful. All right. With that done, we're going to keep the burner phone sort of on reserved, so Melissa can give us a call. Erica 843, who has won the internet, says 5 months going to be busy taking care of the internet today. Yes, you will. Famous last words. But yes, thank you very much. 5 months, Erica. Appreciate the support. All right. I have a golden retriever, yellow lab, and a Saint Bernard singing to Bruno. Is it connecting? Hello? Man, the internet is slow. Hello? What is... Erica, I'm going to need your help. It says it's connecting right now. Still says connecting. And it hung up. Try one more time. I've changed my connections. My phone's it's now using Wi-Fi instead of just cellular, which for some reason is having trouble. But give me a call right back. Okay, call's coming in.
Call from
There it is.
Melissa P.
Melissa P. Thank you for calling in. Sorry about the tech trouble getting you connected this morning.
Oh, no.
And
you are fine. Good morning.
I apologize for not answering your question completely. So let's give it a shot right now. What was your question one more time, and I'll see if I can answer it. I might not answer it completely this morning either.
Hey, even if you try, that's all I was curious about. So last night, I didn't catch up to the live stream in time to call in, and you popped up my question where I said I was concerned about juror number 1 being former law enforcement.
Okay.
And you said, I think I'm more concerned about him being juror number 1 right now. My point is, I've talked to former law enforcement that I know, and they've all said the same thing, that, sometimes you put away bad people, and I don't know what his job was in former law enforcement, but the fact that the juror interview is going to be done in open court, it's bad enough doxing a juror, but to put their face out there online or, for everyone to see. But with him being former law enforcement, I'm concerned about his family's safety. That's my thing.
I believe if he has those concerns, and I don't know what his role was in law enforcement. If he was a dispatcher, obviously, it would be different than if he was, a frontline undercover, something like that. There's obviously different things, and I believe all law enforcement officers, sadly, in today's day and age, are concerned about their safety, and rightfully so.
Yes. Yes.
I would hope that he, through his lawyer, which if it were my friend, I would tell him to get a lawyer, but. I would hope that he files a motion and at least asks to have his face not shown on cameras, that it's not transmitted around the world. I realize he's already been doxxed, but he has to go. I mean, he has to, and I'm not sure if the wording is such that he has to show up in the courtroom or if he has to show up on Zoom. But I think I'd rather him show up. Well, I don't know. I'd rather he be in the courtroom because the judge can limit the camera angles that show him. Whereas if he shows up on Zoom, everyone who connects to Zoom will see him. But.
Exactly. And that was my thing, is I was just concerned. It's already bad enough they've doxed him and that his face would be out there for everyone. But being former law enforcement, if he did a job where he did put people in jail that might come out with a beef, that was my only concern.
Yeah. I don't know him. I've never spoken with him directly. Obviously, he's left some comments in chat occasionally, but I don't know the facts of his background well enough to know what he would prefer. But I hope whatever he prefers gets granted, and that he feels safe in doing what the court is ordering him to participate in.
Hopefully they don't show his face. Hopefully, I think he should get a lawyer. I think you're right about that. Hopefully they won't show his face. But yeah. I appreciate you answering my call. That was my only thing. I was just
Melissa.
Curious what people thought.
Yeah,
so Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you
too.
too.
To feel better.
We'll do that.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right. We thank you very much, Melissa. By the way, sorry I missed your question. Missed part of it. If you missed last night's stream on Judge Carroll's response, you can find it on the homepage. Yes, we did a read through of the documents. There were 5 documents posted. They went like this. One document was the judge's order saying we should we're going to grant the juror's interview, and here's why, and here's what it's going to be. One document was, here's the order setting the hearing, and that's more like, it's like scheduling the room, reserving the room in court, and saying who has to be there and what's allowed and what isn't. There were 2 documents from the defense asking for outside lawyers from Maryland, who are J-Hatch lawyers, to come down and be able to practice on this case. So basically, they're calling in backup. And then there was one document from the plaintiff saying, yeah, those 2 documents that the defense said, where he said there's nobody's opposed to us coming down and practicing, so you should grant us being able to practice in Florida, even though we're not Florida licensed lawyers. That there was one document from the plaintiff saying we're opposed, and they never even asked us. So when they say we're not opposed, no one was opposed, they never asked, and we are. So those were the 5 documents that dropped last night. Does juror number 1 have to talk, or can he plead the 5th? He has to talk, Michelle. I really think he has to talk. Let's see. Let's see. Got a couple things coming up. Sorry, we're about to start court this morning, so just to catch up, everybody, we're finishing day 4. We have the DNA expert, and this is going back to the trial that we're scheduled to talk about this morning, and that's the Nathaniel Rowland trial with Judge Newman out of South Carolina. This is an older trial. It goes back a little ways, and it's had some very in-depth testimony with a lot of zeros talking about DNA, and it goes and goes and goes. So. Hang on, Amber. Do you need me, or can I start? Because I've got to get video started. Hello. Did it work? Nope, it ended. Okay, maybe she doesn't need me. All right. Anything else? I think we're ready to start. Yippee, the trial. Let's see this trial. Yes. We're going to pick up with. Let me get it in the right position. Okay, this segment is an hour long, and unfortunately, hang on. Not yet. Unfortunately, most of it, I thought it was going to be cross-examination. But it's not. Oh my goodness, it's long. It's all still direct. How do we still have direct on this? Okay. Anyway, let's get this going.
An unrelated individual contributed to the mixture versus it being 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals that contributed to the mixture. The result of that comparison is the DNA profile is approximately 4 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and an unidentified, unrelated individual.
Hang on. Before we start this and kick this off, I want to make sure I'm in the right video. This is Agent Ryan Dwayne, who was speaking here. I need this other video pulled up. Sorry, my schedule is not showing appropriately. Hey, it's Peter Tragos. That's not where we're supposed to be. Okay, day 4. That was direct. We already saw the direct. I think we're done with this one, so just one second. I'm not a camel either. Good grief. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the weapon here in just a minute. Why is it not working? Why is the rum gone? Okay, we're going to find it the other way. I think my remote is I think the battery's dead. I think that's what it is. Let me plug it in and see what happens. Ah, it's charging. Now it works. Nope. Now it doesn't. Now it's working. All right. Nathaniel Rowland's trial. playlist. We already did direct exam of Dawn, Danny, Kimberly Myers, Ryan. I think yep, here we go. We're on cross-exam of Agent Ryan. Let me pause this one and update the other. Sorry, we are professionals here too. We need someone with more experience for sure. Why did it replay? There we go. Okay. We're bringing in court right now. Give me a second. We can hear the audio.
They bring the jury.
We're bringing the jury. All right. We are amateurs, says Adam. Erica can help. Wiggle the cord, jiggle the handle, hit it with duct tape. We all know pink duct tape in this one, by the way. Yes, pink duct tape. Selena, I always choose live chat instead of top messages because top messages, for some reason, filters some messages out, and I don't know why it does. Before we go too far in this, I wanted to talk a little bit about the murder weapon.
There we go, cross-examination.
The murder weapon looks like a multi-tool like this, which is normally you can open it and have like pliers, like so.
Dwayne, is Agent Miss?
But the outside has knives, and you can open the knife and they lock in place. But he opens two knives.
All right, so you just testified about a whole bunch of items.
Like that,
I'm going
and
to try
used
not to go
like
back through
double
everything,
knives
but I
to
can't
stab.
promise.
Like so.
I want to back up, though, to when you first got involved with this case. That was back in March of 2019, right?
That is correct.
And do you recall the first day that an item was submitted to you for testing?
This was on March 30th of 2019.
March 30th, 2019. Do you have all of your, I guess, supplemental reports, or do you just have the report from December and June?
I just have the latter two.
Okay. You're on the main bridge? I just needed your report dated March 30th, 2019, correct?
That is correct.
And you had a number of supplemental reports after that, right?
That is correct.
And that's because there was a large volume of items submitted for testing and you kind of updated as you went.
That is correct.
So I think we had, what, a total of 7 or so different report installments?
I received evidence on 8 different days.
Do you have those days?
I do.
Can you tell us what they are, please?
The first date was March 30th of 2019, and then April 1st of 2019, April 3rd of 2019, April 4th of 2019, April 15th of 2019, April 18th of 2019, August 9th of 2019, and June 29th of 2021.
Thank you. Now, if you look back at your, what was submitted to you on March 30th, you were provided 3 items to compare on that day, correct?
That is correct.
And you received a buccal swab from Ms. Josephson.
I apologize. I received 5 items.
5? Okay. One of those items was a buccal swab from Ms. Josephson.
That is correct.
Another one was a swab from a left shoe, a black and white shoe.
That is correct.
And a third one was a swab from the rear driver side interior panel.
That is correct.
And you said you received the items on the 30th and you issued your report on the 30th, correct?
That is correct.
And that request came from who? Do you recall?
I got the phone call from a SLED agent.
Do you remember which one it was?
I do not recall off the top of my head.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it common practice, or just is it common for your department to be able to turn around on testing, peer reviews, and issuing reports within a number of hours?
Yes, it depends on the number of items and the type of items.
And sometimes it takes months. Is that fair?
That is correct.
But there are times also that special requests can come from law enforcement or by order of the court to prioritize to try to get the testing done more quickly, right?
More efficiently, yes.
Yes, I mean, I'm not trying to suggest that you aren't, that your department doesn't work efficiently, but there's only so many hours in the day. If people are giving you hundreds of items to test, don't y'all receive items from all over the state?
Yes, we do.
And sometimes there can be a backlog.
Yes, that is correct.
But y'all work as quickly as you can, as efficiently as you can to try to get to each and every task as it comes in, right?
That is correct.
Now you said your the third report you issued was around April 18th.
I apologize, I do not have the dates of the reports.
You're making funny?
Yes, this report is dated April 18th of 2019.
And on this report, we see for the first time that items 17 and 18 are listed, correct?
That is correct.
And again, that's April 18th of 2019.
Yes, that is correct.
All right. And we'll come back to items 17 and 18 in just a minute. But like you said, throughout the next couple of months, even years, you did the testing, you put it through the peer review, you issued your reports as efficiently as possible so you could get the reports done.
That is correct.
And when you finish your report, do you personally hand it to the investigator?
Not typically, no.
Where do you typically upload your report to?
We have an internal laboratory management system called The Beast, and that is where our reports are written and published.
And so an investigator
Is it called The Beast, or is that the nickname?
That database.
Yes, once the report is published.
And they can access it at any time after you've published it?
Yes, that is correct.
And they would not have to contact you for any special login. They can go get it themselves.
As far as I understand, yes.
And it's not your responsibility to track down an investigator to tell them, hey, my report's finished. You submit it, you upload it, it's published, and your job there is complete, right?
That is correct.
All right, now do you have your December 5th report?
I do.
All right, so I'd like to start first just going over some things that were found and that you processed inside the vehicle. But first, you were discussing with Mr. Goldberg the different ways that DNA can be transferred from one item to another. One of those ways is just by simply touching something, right?
That is correct.
If you sneeze, you can transfer your DNA that way, if you don't cover your mouth.
Yes, that is correct.
You said blood is a very strong indicator of a DNA transfer.
Yes.
And skin cells. I guess that would be the same thing as touch. Is that right?
What is the question?
Skin cells, transferring skin cells.
Yes.
So transfer DNA. Am I correct in saying that DNA can transfer from one item to another without the person having direct contact with that originating source? Does that make sense?
Yes, that is possible.
So, for example, if there was blood in the back of the car and I touched that blood, that DNA would transfer from that item to the person that touched it.
Yes, if the blood is wet, then yes.
And if there are other items in the car that come in contact with blood, the blood can transfer from one to the other.
Yes, that is correct.
You can also transfer DNA by, if somebody owns a sweatshirt. You wear the sweatshirt, it's safe to assume that your DNA is going to be on that sweatshirt.
Yes, it is possible that your DNA will be on that sweatshirt.
If somebody owns a car and you drive the car, it's very likely your DNA is going to be on the steering wheel.
It is possible that your DNA would be on the steering wheel.
It's possible your DNA will be on the gear shift.
Yes, that is possible.
All right, so I'd like you to look at item 3 for me on page 4. Item 3 was one of the first things you said was given to you on March 30th.
That is correct.
And the swab was labeled from rear driver door side interior panel, correct?
That is correct.
And when you ran this sample, correct me if I'm wrong, but you did not have a known sample from Mr. Rowland at that point, right?
That is correct.
But on March 30th, the presumptive test for blood was positive.
Yes, that is correct.
And your result, it was interpreted that there was a strong likelihood that Miss Samantha Josephson was a potential contributor.
The statistic associated with Samantha Josephson fell in our very strong support range.
And that was on March 30th.
Yes, that is correct.
Happy birthday,
And then
Mary
on
Myers.
April 5th,
Congratulations.
that's when you received the known sample from Mr. Rowland, correct?
I received the known standard from Nathaniel Rowland on April 3rd of 2019.
Okay, April 3rd. But on the April 5th report that you issued, that's when you indicated that Nathaniel Rowland was excluded from that sample as a possible contributor, correct?
I can't confirm the date, but yes, I can confirm that result.
31.
Yes, for the report issued on April 5th of 2019, the result regarding Nathaniel Rowland for item 3 was that he was excluded as a possible contributor.
And just so we're clear, the profile that you interpreted for item 3, for item 3 originated from 2 individuals.
That is correct.
So we know Nathaniel Rowland is excluded, right?
Yes, that's correct.
You were able to exclude also everybody else that you had a known sample for, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So there's an unidentified profile mixed with Ms. Josephson's profile on that swab.
Yes, that is correct.
Now I'd like you to turn your attention to item 22. It's on page 14.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's 22.1. This item is listed as the envelope swab from stain below address window on item 22.
That is correct.
And for this particular item, you also got a mixture of 2 individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
And your proposition is that there's a strong likelihood, 3.7 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson was a contributor.
The statistic associated with Samantha Josephson as a possible contributor falls in our very strong support range.
Yes, ma'am. And that number is 3.7 septillion times more likely?
Yes.
And for this item, Nathaniel Rowland is also excluded, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you've excluded everybody else that you had no profiles for?
Yes, that is correct.
So it's Samantha Josephson mixed with an unidentified person?
Yes.
Now, if you look over on page 15 at item 22.2, it's another swab taken from this envelope, swab from the outer edges of item 22.2, correct?
That is correct.
And on this swab, we had a mixture of 3 individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
And the DNA profile is approximately 42 billion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified related individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, that is correct.
So a very strong probability that Ms. Josephson is present.
A very strong statistic associated with her possible inclusion.
And you testified that you did you created a proposition for Mr. Rowland also.
Yes.
Mr. Rowland is not included in this mixture of 3, correct?
The result for this is the DNA profile is approximately 4 times more likely if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture. So this DNA profile is 4 times more likely to have occurred if the second scenario where Nathaniel Rowland is not included as a contributor occurred.
Okay. It's more likely if Nathaniel Rowland is not a contributor.
That is correct.
Okay. And you came to that same conclusion for Xavier McFadden. It's more likely if he is not a contributor, correct?
That is correct.
You came to that conclusion with Dwayne Williams. It's more likely that he is not a contributor?
That is correct.
You came to that conclusion as far as Maria Howard goes. She is not a contributor.
It is trending toward exclusion. Yes.
And then under the last proposition, you have excluded Oshmar Williams and Gerard Fleming, correct?
That is correct.
So with this particular swab, we have Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified people in this mixture.
That is correct.
All right, please look at item 38. I'm sorry, 38.1 is on page 18. This particular swab is a mixture of at least 5 people,
Yes, that is correct.
and you testified that anything over 4 you cannot run an analysis on.
Yes, that is correct.
And how many DNA profiles does each person have? One per person, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And the same thing was for item 39.1. There were 5 profiles identified, so you could not do any more testing.
Yes, that is correct.
But we know there were 5.
Yes.
Now, item 45.1 is down at the bottom of this page. It is labeled as swabs from the right sleeve near cuff of black jacket, Robert Comstock size extra large from rear passenger seat of the Chevy Impala. You were able to identify profiles on this item as well, correct?
That is correct.
And the profile is a mixture of 2 individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
And Samantha Josephson's likelihood of being a contributor to this mixture is pretty strong, right?
Yes, the DNA profile is 3.7 septillion times more likely.
That it's her and another person contributing to the mixture.
That is correct.
And Nathaniel Rowland is excluded from being that second person, correct?
That is correct.
And you excluded everybody else that you had known samples for with this particular item.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's Samantha Josephson and an unidentified person that we don't know.
That is correct.
Now on item 45.2, swabs from the upper right and lower left areas of the black jacket, same black jacket, that was found in the rear passenger seat of the Chevy Impala. This profile is a mixture of 3 individuals.
That is correct.
Samantha Josephson had a very strong, it was approximately 2.7 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
Correct.
Than if it was
3 unidentified, yes.
And with this item, the swabs from the right and left side of this jacket, Nathaniel Rowland is excluded, right?
That is correct.
And you excluded everybody else that you had known samples for?
Yes, that is correct.
So it's Samantha Josephson mixed with 2 other people that we don't know.
Yes, that's what the statistic implies.
And when we look at 45.3, that's another, the scraping from the interior neck area of the same black jacket that was found in the back seat of the car.
Yes, that is correct.
This is a mixture of at least 5.
Yes.
So you could not do any testing on that.
That is correct.
Can you turn to page 24, please, item 62? This is the steering wheel of the Chevy Impala, correct?
That is correct.
And this is a mixture of 3 people.
Yes.
And the first proposition that you did included Nathaniel Rowland as a possible contributor.
Yes.
And it was approximately 970 billion times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
The DNA profile was approximately 970 billion times more likely if that were the case, yes.
Versus it being 3 unknown people.
Yes, that is correct.
And then you ran the proposition for Maria Howard?
Yes.
And she had a pretty strong supported proposition for being included on that swab as well, right?
Yes, the statistic associated with Maria Howard was in our very strong support range.
And having DNA of 2 individuals who were driving a vehicle show up on a steering wheel is not uncommon, correct?
That is correct.
But there were 3 individuals in the mixture, right?
That is correct.
And so everybody else that you had a sample for, including Samantha Josephson, was excluded from that mixture.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's very likely Nathaniel Rowland, Maria Howard, and somebody that we don't know.
That is correct.
I'd like to look for you to look over on page 26 at item 63. This is the swabs from the gear shift of the Chevy Impala. This was a mixture of 4, correct?
That is correct.
And under this proposition, it was approximately 390 billion times more likely that Samantha Josephson contributed to the DNA mixture than contributed to the DNA mixture and 3 other people versus it being 4 unidentified people.
It was 390 billion times more likely to see this DNA profile if that were the scenario, yes.
Okay. And 150 billion times more likely to see the scenario involving Nathaniel Rowland.
That is correct.
Maria Howard was only at a 27 times more likely in this scenario if it was her and two other unidentified people.
The DNA profile is approximately 27 times more likely if Maria Howard and 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 4 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
So statistically, you can't say that she's not there. She's just considered a weak support.
That is correct.
Okay. You did a proposition for Xavier McFadden, another known sample that you had.
Yes.
And you found that it was 4 times more likely if 4 unrelated people contributed to the mixture versus Xavier McFadden being in that mixture with 3 other people, right?
That is 4 times more likely to see this DNA profile, if that's the case, yes.
And then you excluded Marcus Williams, Ashamar Williams, and Rod Fleming.
Yes, that is correct.
So there's still one profile that's on the gear shift of this car that we don't know who it belongs to, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Can you look at item 64 for me, please? It's on page 28, it's the next page. The exterior door handle of the rear passenger side. That is a mixture of 3 individuals.
That is correct.
It's approximately 140 quadrillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, the statistic always applies to the DNA profile occurring, so it is 140 quadrillion times more likely to see this profile if that is the case.
Yes, ma'am. You did the same thing for Mr. Rowland. It was 9,100 times more likely to see Nathaniel Rowland in that combination.
That is correct.
Maria Howard was approximately 2 times more likely that she would be in that scenario.
It's 2 times more likely to see the DNA profile, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
There are 4 microphones right there. So we've got this one right here. We've got this one down here. This is a Sennheiser, and this is a mic as well.
It is on page.
And then possibly, see that? It's the wire, so no. There might be another one as well.
Oh, I believe that's in your June report. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's a swab that was done from the rear passenger seat of the Chevy Impala.
That is correct.
It was presumptive for blood.
Yes, that is correct.
The profile that you developed was a combination of 2 individuals.
Yes.
Nathaniel Rowland is not one of those individuals.
That is correct. He is excluded.
And in fact, outside of Ms. Josephson's profile, you excluded every other individual you had a known sample from.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's Ms. Josephson's profile mixed with somebody that we don't know.
Yes.
And can you look at item 76, please? Swab from the rear driver's side seat of the Chevy Impala. Mr. Rowland is not a contributor in that one either, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now this is going to take you back to the December report. I apologize for skipping around on you. Talk about some of the items that were found over at the Mountainbrook address. I'm going to start with item 104. And that would be on page 32 of your December report. So you did you received a swab from the serrated blade, correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Rowland's profile is not on that blade, correct?
That is correct.
And there's a second swab that was turned into you, swabs from the inner edges of handles of camo-colored multi-tool, from the white plastic Family Dollar bag number 2.
Yes, that is correct.
That is a mixture of 3 individuals.
Yes.
Samantha Josephson has a strong support probability of being included.
The statistic associated with Samantha Josephson falls in our very strong support range.
Yes, ma'am. And that number that was assigned to that is 2.6 septillion.
That is correct.
And then you did the same setup for Mr. Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals versus it being 3 unidentified unrelated individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And your result for that one was the DNA profile is approximately 49 times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
So there's a significant difference, wouldn't you agree, between 2.6 septillion and 49?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, and 49 is, on your verbal scale, you said considered weak.
Yes, that falls in our weak support range.
And you did there was an extra step with the YSTR profile development, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you had testified earlier about, a major contributor and a minor contributor. The major contributor, you said, leaves more DNA. There's more information for that individual's profile that's available. That's why it's considered major.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And the minor is whatever's left?
For a 2-person mixture, it's whatever is left.
Okay. And the major contributor on item 104.2 for the YSTR profile is unidentified male individual B, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. You said the minor contributor you're attributing to Nathaniel Rowland, right?
Yes.
But a little bit farther down, you say the probability of randomly selecting an unrelated male individual having a YSTR profile matching the minor contributor to this mixture is approximately 1 in 59.
Yes, that is correct.
Am I correct in saying that's 1 in every 59 people? Or men, 1 in every 59 men?
No, this is a statistic that is a counting method, and so we have a database that has a specific number of people, and basically each location of DNA is counted how many times it appears in that database, given the total amount of people, and then it is multiplied together through the product rule to get a final probability.
Okay.
That actually made it
you have
more
him listed as a
confusing.
minor contributor, right?
That is correct.
And again, the major is an unidentified male B.
Yes, that is correct.
Can you look at item 107.1, please? That is on page 36. This is a swab from the cuff of a black left-hand glove from inside of a Family Dollar bag, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
This particular swab has a mixture of 4 individuals. Right?
Yes, that is correct.
And again, each human being only has 1 DNA profile, so we're dealing with 4 different people.
Yes, that is correct.
So with this particular sample, you had a combination of Samantha Josephson and 3 unrelated individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And when you considered whether or not that scenario was likely, the DNA profile is approximately 2.5 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if it was 4 unknown or unidentified unrelated individuals, correct?
That is correct.
And you also testified that Mr. Rowland, Nathaniel Rowland's profile, it was possible 460,000 times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland contributed in that same scenario?
Yes, to see that DNA profile.
And you did that same scenario for Maria Howard?
That is correct.
And hers was approximately 4 times more likely in the Maria Howard plus 3 unknown scenario?
Yes, that is correct.
And then everybody else that you had a known sample for was excluded, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So there's an unknown, unidentified person involved in this profile?
Yes, that is correct.
And you testified, I just want to back up for a second. When you get your swabs from serology, is there a picture or any sort of photograph of where they took the cutting from or anything like that?
I do not look at these pictures, but I think that it is on our protocol. I'm not actually 100% sure, but I know at times they take pictures and other times they do not.
Okay. But the swab for 107.1 is a swab from the cuff of a black left glove, right? Left-handed glove.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, now on that same page, item 108.1. Swab from the bottom crease on exterior of bag from item 108. And item 108 is a Family Dollar bag.
Yes,
correct?
That is correct.
And this is a mixture of 2 individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
In the scenario number 1, proposition set 1, Samantha Josephson plus an unidentified person contributing to the mixture, right?
Versus 2 unidentified unrelated individuals.
Yes. And you said it was approximately 3.9 septillion times more likely that this combination was Samantha Josephson and an unknown. 3.9 septillion times more likely than if it was two unknowns.
It was 3.9 septillion times more likely to see this DNA profile if the scenario involving Samantha Josephson occurred rather than if the scenario not including Samantha Josephson occurred.
And then Nathaniel Rowland is excluded.
That is correct.
So this combination on 108.1 is Samantha Josephson plus
I'm
somebody.
looking. We have a little bit
correct.
left of this DNA
Item
testimony. Let me see how much
108.2,
longer.
swab from the handles of the
Sunk
bag
cross.
I apologize, swab from handles of bag from item 108.
Can you move so I
which
can
is
see the
identified as the
screen?
white plastic Family Dollar bag, bag number 1, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Nathaniel Rowland is not a contributor to this mixture either.
That is correct.
And it's a mixture of two people.
Yes, that is correct.
You excluded every single person that you had a known sample for except Samantha Josephson, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So the proposition that it's a combination of Samantha Josephson plus an unknown, unidentified,
We have about half an hour
unrelated,
more of
unidentified
defense
person
going
versus
over
being
this
two
before there's
unidentified
redirect.
people. It's more likely, it's 3.5 septillion times more likely that it's
Should we
Samantha
speed it up a
Josephson
little
plus
bit?
one more.
It is 3.5 septillion times more likely to see the DNA profile if scenario 1 with Samantha Josephson is true than if scenario 2 occurred.
Yes, ma'am. And we know that Nathaniel Rowland is not that second person.
That is correct. He is excluded.
Okay, we're going to try to speed this up just a second, so give me just a second to get this configured.
Item 108.3.1 on the bottom of that same page. Cutting from 5 wads of possible paper towels from miscellaneous contents removed from item 108, correct?
That is correct.
A mixture originating from 3 people.
1.5
Yes, that is
speed.
correct.
Proposition 1, Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture. Versus 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributing to that mixture.
Yes, that is correct.
And it's 56 million times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to that mixture versus it being 3 unidentified people.
I'm worried they're going to say
DNA
something
profile is
relevant.
approximately 56 million times more likely if that occurs. Yes.
And you did the same scenario with Xavier McFadden, one of your known samples.
Yes.
And your conclusion for that combination was the DNA profile is approximately 32 times more likely if 3 unidentified, unrelated people contributed to the profile versus if it's Xavier McFadden and 2 unidentified people.
Yes, that is correct.
You did the same setup for Nathaniel Rowland.
Yes, that is correct.
And for him, the conclusion was the DNA profile is approximately 22 times more likely if it was 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributing to the profile versus if it was Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified people.
Yes, that is correct.
It's more likely it's somebody else, in layman's terms.
That is correct.
And you were able to, or rule out, I should say, not going to say exclude, but rule out everybody that you had a known sample for, except for Marcus Williams, the possible contributor, correct?
I wouldn't use that wording.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to put words into your mouth. You were not able to get a strong support likelihood for any other person that you had a known sample for with this scenario.
For inclusion?
Yes, ma'am.
That is correct.
Okay. And I apologize, but I'm not a scientist.
So it's definitely my client. Is that what you're saying?
Will you look
Yes.
at 108.3.2, please? Cutting from, it's on page 42, cutting from 1 wad of possible paper towels from miscellaneous contents removed from the bag from item 108, the Family Dollar bag, bag number 1. This is a mixture of 3 people, 3 individuals in the profile, correct?
That is correct.
With the combination or scenario of Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified individuals versus 3 unidentified individuals, your conclusion was that it is 2.7 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
It is 2.7 septillion times more likely to see this DNA profile if that is the case, yes.
And you ran that same scenario for Nathaniel Rowland?
Yes.
And your results for that one were it's approximately 3 times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
The
Sorry, go ahead.
The DNA profile is approximately 3 times more likely if that is the case, yes.
And that is considered a weak support for inclusion, right?
Yes, the statistic falls in our weak support range.
Even with that weak support, isn't it true there's still a profile in this mixture that you were unable to include, you were not able to include any of the other known profiles to this mixture?
Yes, that is correct.
So there's an unidentified profile in this mixture?
Yes, that is correct.
Item 108.3.4. The swabs from the interior as submitted of glove marked A from the miscellaneous contents removed from the bag from item 108, which again is the Family Dollar bag, bag number 1, right?
That is correct.
Now, Mr. Goldberg asked you, when you have, well, you were explaining, you have a glove like this. Sometimes when you get it, a trash bag or something, you don't know which part is the inside or which part is the outside.
That is correct.
And that's why it's listed as submitted, right?
Yes, that is correct.
But isn't it true that, this glove was sitting here on the ground and I just picked it up, throw it away? My DNA get on that glove, right?
Yes, that is possible.
But on the glove that you got the swabs from, there are 3 individuals in the profile, right?
This is for item 108.3.4?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it was interpreted as a mixture originating from 3 individuals.
Bear with me, I lost my place. Second course, Milton.
You were on the last page. You were just doing the last question. I can help you.
Okay. I apologize for that. I got lost in the report. So 108.3.4. Yes, ma'am. Glove marked A from miscellaneous contents. A mixture of 3 individuals, and under the proposition for glove A, Nathaniel Rowland is excluded as a contributor.
Yes, that is correct.
But there's a mixture of 3 individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
You excluded every other known sample that you had other than the possibility of Samantha Josephson being present, right?
Yes, that is correct.
108.3.5, glove mark B. Again, interior as submitted because y'all don't know, right?
That is correct.
Nathaniel Rowland is excluded.
Yes.
Every other known sample that you have other than Samantha Josephson is excluded.
Yes, that is correct.
But this is a mixture of 2 individuals.
Yes.
So it's Samantha Josephson plus somebody that we don't know.
Yes, that is correct.
I want to go back to this glove for just a second. Now, assuming, because we don't know, if somebody has their hand, we'll try that again. If somebody were to put their hand in this glove, I apparently cannot get my hand in this glove. Let's imagine that somebody had their hand inside of a glove, right? You would assume
The glove didn't
that
fit.
there's a possibility I'm going to leave my DNA inside of that glove, right?
Yes.
And if I happened to have somebody else's DNA on my hand, and I put my hand inside that glove, there's a good chance I can leave that person's DNA inside that glove too, right?
Yes, that is possible.
And that's an example of transfer DNA.
Yes.
The DNA was transferred to me, and I transferred it to somebody else.
That is correct.
All right, so can you please look at item 108.3.6, please? This is listed as swabs from the interior, as submitted, of glove marked C from miscellaneous contents removed from the Family Dollar bag, bag 1, right?
That is correct.
This is a combination of 4 profiles.
Yes.
So 4 different people.
That is correct.
And Samantha Josephson, you had the scenario Samantha Josephson plus 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals versus it being 4 unidentified, unrelated individuals.
That is correct.
And for that scenario, the DNA profile is approximately 2.3 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 4 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to that mixture, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So it's a pretty strong support that her profile is included in that mixture.
Yes.
And you did the same for Mr. Rowland, Nathaniel Rowland, correct?
That is correct.
And we have no conclusion on that, right?
That's correct. An uninformative statistical result was obtained. No conclusion can be made regarding Nathaniel Rowland as a possible contributor to this mixture under the listed propositions.
And Mr. Goldberg asked you if it was possible for, his DNA could be there. Is that possible? You just don't know statistically?
Yes, no conclusions can be made.
Isn't it also true that it's possible his DNA is not there?
Yes, that's possible.
Will you look at item 128.1.1, please? That's on page 48.
The science
That's
is actually fairly
cuttings from
sound,
towels and
Ivan.
miscellaneous contents removed from the bag.
I know
That
most
is
of us
item
don't get into
128,
that.
black trash bag
But it's-
from trash can.
That is correct.
It's fairly sound.
And you developed a profile of 2 people being included.
Yes.
Samantha Josephson, in her scenario, Ms. Josephson and 2 unrelated individuals. I'm sorry, Samantha Josephson and 1 unrelated individual, right?
That is correct.
Versus 2 unrelated individuals.
Yes.
And it's 3.9 septillion times more likely if the scenario involves Samantha Josephson and that 1 unrelated person.
The DNA profile is approximately 3.9 septillion times more likely if that is the case, yes. Rather than if 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, ma'am. And Nathaniel Rowland, when you put him in that scenario, he's excluded.
That is correct.
Along with everybody else you had known profiles for, correct?
That is correct.
So this combination is Samantha Josephson plus somebody that we don't know.
That is correct.
Thank you, Chrissy. 4 months. Woohoo.
Would you please look at item 128.2?
And thank you as well. Appreciate this.
Swaps from the open edge of the black trash bag and handles of 2 interior bags from items 128, which is the black bag that was inside the trash can. This is a mixture of 3 people, correct?
That is correct.
The first scenario you ran included Ms. Josephson and 2 unrelated people versus 3 unrelated people, right?
That is correct.
And it was 10 times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified unrelated people contributed to this particular profile.
It is 10 times more likely to see this DNA profile if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture rather than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
So her profile is present, it's just not the strongest support. It's a weak support.
There is, yes, there is weak support for her possible inclusion.
And you ran the scenario with Maria Howard and 2 unidentified individuals versus it being 3 unidentified individuals, correct?
That is correct.
And for that scenario, it's approximately 12 billion more times likely if the combination was Maria Howard and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributing to the mixture than if it were 3 unknown unrelated individuals, correct?
It is 12 billion times more likely to see this DNA profile if that is the case, yes.
So Ms. Howard is 12 billion considered a strong support, medium support, or weak support?
This statistic falls in our very strong support range.
And you did the same scenario for Mr. Rowland, correct?
That is correct.
It sounds like they're trying to blame Miss Howard.
You were looking at him plus the 2 unidentified people versus the 3 unknowns. It was approximately 5 times more likely if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture versus Mr. Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals, correct?
It is 5 times more likely to see the DNA profile if that is the case.
Yes, ma'am. So it's more likely that it's 3 unknown people.
It is more likely to see this DNA profile if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture rather than if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, ma'am. I swear. We're almost done. Can you look at
They
item
are almost done.
130.1.1,
We're getting very, very close.
Those are cuttings from the left side hem area of the tan shirt that was removed from item 130, which is a Family Dollar bag, bag number 2, correct?
That is correct.
And you were able to develop a profile of 2 individuals, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And the hem's at the bottom of the shirt, right?
From my understanding.
Okay, that's right. You didn't see the parent item. You just got the sample.
Yes, that is correct.
But then we have a profile of 2 individuals. So Samantha Josephson was put into the scenario.
Yes.
And when you compared the 2 hypotheses, it was determined that it's approximately 4.1 septillion times more likely that Samantha Josephson and an unidentified, unrelated individual contributed to the mixture than if 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
It is 4.1 septillion times more likely to see this DNA profile if that is the case.
And you put Mr. Rowland's profile in that same scenario.
Yes,
Love
that is
the
correct.
movie
And the result
reference
that you
there.
came to as far as that scenario is that
Little
it's
bit of Dumb and
approximately
Dumber.
13 times more likely if it were 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals in this mixture versus if it was Nathaniel Rowland and 1 unidentified person, correct?
It is 13 times more likely to see this DNA profile if that is the case, yes.
So it's more likely that Mr. Rowland is not a contributor to this particular scenario, this mixture of profiles.
According to the DNA profile, yes.
So they're pointing out everywhere that they
Can you
didn't
look at
find
item
his DNA,
130.1.2,
but did find
please?
other people's DNA.
That's the scraping from the neck area of the tan shirt, correct?
That is correct.
This is another one where it's a mixture of 5.
Not quite. This was a DNA profile that was developed, but due to the complexity of the profile and the inability to determine a number of contributors, no further interpretation will be offered.
I apologize about that, I was the wrong one. But anyway, you never did any further analysis because you couldn't determine how many people's profiles were present. Is that what that breaks down to?
Exactly.
Is it usually the situation when you have something like this, you can't determine how many? Is it typically more than 1?
Yes.
Typically more than 2?
No, that's not necessarily the case. It can be where you suspect that it's a mixture of 2 or anywhere above that.
Okay, but definitely more than 1.
Yes.
Okay. Will you look at item 130.2 for me, please? Those are swabs from the handles of item. That's not what that says. Swabs from the handles of item 130, which is the Family Dollar bag number 2.
That is correct.
On those handles, there's a mixture of 2 individuals.
Yes.
The first scenario, you include Ms. Josephson's profile.
With an unidentified, unrelated individual.
Yes, ma'am. And you compare that to the profile of 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
And it's approximately 1.7 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and an unidentified, unrelated individual contributed to the mixture of that profile versus it being 2 unrelated individuals, correct?
It is 1.7 septillion times more likely to see the DNA profile if that is the case, yes.
Yes, ma'am. And there were no other known profiles, known samples that you have that you could include as that second individual, right?
That is correct.
Would you please look at item 131.1.1.1? That's the cutting from the right cuff of the shirt. I believe Mr. Goldberg showed it to you. I would take it out, but I can't get gloves on. But that was the Nike sweatshirt that he had held up, black with white strings, correct?
From my memory, yes.
So for this particular item, the cutting from the right cuff, I think we might have skipped over it. There were 4 individual profiles identified in this sample, correct?
That is correct.
So you do the scenarios, you include Ms. Josephson's profile with 3 unidentified individuals versus it being 4 unidentified, unrelated individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And Ms. Josephson has what you would consider a very strong probability of being present in this particular mixture?
Yes, the statistic associated with Samantha Josephson is in our very strong support range.
You testified that Mr. Rowland had would you consider, a strong likelihood of being involved in this profile that you were able to develop?
The statistic associated with Nathaniel Rowland fell in our very strong support range.
Would it surprise you for somebody's DNA to be on an item of clothing that they owned? If John owned a shirt, would you expect to see John's DNA on a shirt?
Yes, if he'd worn it.
Okay.
Or handled it, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am. And then you excluded everybody else that you had a known sample for, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So we have 4 profiles. We've got strong support for 2 profiles, Ms. Josephson and Mr. Rowland. So there's 2 unidentified profiles still showing up on this item, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And we don't know who they are.
That is correct.
Item 131.1.1.2, that's a swab from scraping the neck area of the same shirt, correct?
That is correct.
And this is the one I mistakenly was talking about a minute ago. This is the one that has 5 profiles.
That is correct.
Okay, so you could not do any more testing on it.
Yes, that is correct.
But we know there's at least 5.
Yes.
On item 131.1.2.1, cuttings from the left thigh area of the pants. That's a mixture of 3 different DNA profiles, correct?
That is correct.
So you start with Ms. Josephson, you create a scenario with Ms. Josephson and 2 unrelated individuals versus it being 3 unrelated individuals, correct?
That is correct.
And for that scenario, it's approximately 3.1 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
It is 3.1 septillion times more likely to see this DNA profile, if that's the case.
Yes, ma'am. And that's what's considered a very strong support.
Yes, that statistic falls in our very strong support range.
You included Mr. Rowland in that same scenario.
Yes, that is correct.
What would Mr. Rowland's likelihood be classified as?
The statistic associated with Nathaniel Rowland is 55, which falls in our weak support range.
So it's a weak support, you said?
That is correct.
And then you excluded everybody else that you had no samples for.
Yes, that is correct.
But we started out with a mixture of 3 profiles, so there's still 1 person that's unidentified from this mixture, right?
That is correct.
Item 131.2, the swab from the handles on item 131. That's a mixture of 2 individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
You created the scenario including Maria Howard and Maria Howard and 1 unidentified individual versus it being 2 unrelated people.
Yes, that is correct.
And Ms. Howard's result would be what's considered a strong support, correct?
This statistic of 92 billion falls in our very strong support range.
But everybody else you had samples for, including Ms. Josephson, were excluded.
That is correct.
So the second profile is somebody that we don't know.
That is correct.
And those were the handles on item 131, which is the family dollar bag, correct?
Yes.
And item 140.1, swabs from scrapings on the interior of the black beanie. You found a profile of 4 individuals.
That is correct.
You did the scenario for Ms. Josephson, and it was 210,000 times more likely if it's Samantha Josephson and 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributing to the mixture than if it's 4 unidentified unrelated individuals contributing, correct?
It is 210,000 times more likely to see this DNA profile if that's the case.
And that's considered a strong support, correct?
Yes, that falls in our strong support range.
And Mr. Rowland, Nathaniel Rowland, also has a strong support range at 11 octillion.
11 octillion falls in our very strong support range.
You would not be surprised to see Nathaniel Rowland's DNA in that beanie if he's worn it before, correct?
That is correct.
Please be done.
But we know there's 2 other profiles on the sample that you have.
Yes, that is correct.
And you were not able to include any other known sample that you've been provided, right?
That is correct.
Please be done.
All right, a few more items. If you go back towards the front of your report to item number 13, just want to touch on a few things.
We'll slow this down once she's done with cross. We'll have a few minutes of redirect.
You mentioned testing hair. a number of different hairs were collected and submitted for testing, right?
That is correct.
Do these hairs have roots on them?
If the hair was taken through DNA analysis, then it had a suspected root on it.
So I guess when you received the hair, were you doing a root test, or were you testing for some other type of DNA like blood or touch or something?
When we receive a hair, we look at it under a microscope and determine if there is a possible root. And if there is, we will send it forward to DNA analysis. And a root is just skin cells from your head.
Okay. So if there's any hair that has testing done, then are you testifying that there was a root present?
I'm testifying that there was an apparent root present.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So if you please look at item 13. That's a hair that was from the right hand of Samantha Josephson?
That is correct.
And you were able to develop a profile off of this item, correct?
That is correct.
And it's a mixture of 2 individuals.
That is correct.
And Nathaniel Rowland is not one of those individuals.
That is correct.
And you were able to develop, there was no YSTR profile developed, correct?
That is correct.
And that's a hair that was in her hand. It has 2 profiles on it.
Yes.
Item 16 were the fingernail scrapings. 16.1 was the right hand fingernail scraping from Ms. Josephson, correct?
That is correct.
Nathaniel Rowland's DNA is not under Samantha Josephson's right hand fingernails for the scrapings, correct?
For the STR profile, that is correct.
Yes, ma'am. For 16.2, Nathaniel Rowland's DNA is not under Ms. Josephson's fingernails.
That is correct.
For item 17, fingernail clippings from the right hand of Ms. Josephson, Nathaniel Rowland's DNA is not on the fingernail clippings, correct?
That is correct.
This is their big finish. This is all the testing on the victim
YSTR profile, though.
that don't have the defendant's
But
DNA.
you couldn't determine the number of contributors to that profile.
That is correct.
So you couldn't do anything else with it.
Yes, that's correct.
This is
On item 18, fingernail clippings from the left hand of Samantha Josephson. Mr. Rowland's DNA is not under those fingernails either, is he?
Nathaniel Rowland is excluded as a contributor to the STR profile. That is correct.
Yes, ma'am. And on item 18, you were able to develop a YSTR profile.
Yes, that is correct.
You were able to break it into a major contributor and a minor contributor.
That I was able to determine a major contributor.
And that's unidentified male A.
That is correct.
And with item 18, there were 3 profiles developed, right? For the STR mixture, 3 different profiles?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And you just testified that Nathaniel Rowland's not one of those profiles, correct?
That is correct.
So it would be Samantha Josephson and 2 unknown people.
Yes, that is correct.
And item 19, the swab from the left ankle of Ms. Josephson. There is a profile from Ms. Josephson present on her ankle.
That is correct.
Which is to be expected.
Yes.
But there's also DNA that's not attributed to her that's also present.
That is correct.
You were not able to do any further testing as far as the STR testing, correct? I mean, the profile testing.
Yeah, no further interpretations could be offered.
Yes, ma'am. But you were able to develop a partial YSTR.
Yes, that is correct.
And that's a mixture of at least 3 male individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
But we have no other information that was available, and you were unable to do any further testing, correct?
Any further comparisons, that is correct.
And then swabs from the right ankle of Samantha Josephson, item 20. You don't indicate that Mr. Rowland's DNA is on her right ankle either.
That is correct.
Begging the court's indulgence.
Okay, so as they wrap up here, we have a little bit of cross-examination. I think it's going to be less numbers and more summation. So we might slow this down just a little bit back to 1.25 speed. It's still rolling right now. You're not missing anything. No further questions from the defense on cross.
And redirect.
We are almost done with this witness.
Regarding item 104.2, that is the inner handle of the knife that I showed you earlier. Is that right?
That is correct.
You testified that you used 2 different methodologies to analyze that item. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You used the star notes methodology
Yes.
and the YSTR methodology.
Yes, that is correct.
Using the star notes methodology, there was some level of support for inclusion of the defendant in that profile. Is that right?
Yes, to see the DNA profile is approximately 49 times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
And for the second methodology, the YSTR, there was also some level of support for Mr. Rowland's inclusion, correct?
That is correct.
Now, if an item were to be swapped, such as a jacket, for example, and a profile was developed from said jacket, and your analysis excluded a person from being part of the profile, okay? Does that mean that that person has never worn the jacket?
No, it does not necessarily mean that.
Does it mean they've never touched the jacket?
No, it does not necessarily mean that.
Does it mean they've never used it in any way whatsoever?
No.
Along those same lines, if I were to give you this jacket, or crime scene investigators, my jacket, and they were to swab it, and it was analyzed by you, would you automatically find my DNA from every swab that's taken from this jacket?
Not necessarily, no.
All right, there were questions about Ms. Josephson's fingernails and the items of evidence relating to her clippings and scrapings, correct?
That is correct.
I'll throw another hypothetical at you. If someone was wearing long sleeves and gloves, and another person tried to scratch them or hit them or touch them in some way over those clothes, can you say whether the presence of those long sleeves and gloves would increase or decrease the likelihood of seeing that person's DNA profile under those names?
This scenario would not apply to a universal rule, but one of the things that does inhibit touch DNA is if you're wearing layers, you're less likely to shed your DNA than if you are have your skin exposed. However, multiple possibilities are always should always be accounted for.
Certainly.
Certainly. We should account for multiple possibilities.
There's been a lot of big numbers thrown out here today, septillion and octillion being two of them, correct?
That is correct.
And specifically, Ms. Pinnock asked you about item 140, I believe, your item 140. That was the parent item of the black beanie taken out of the Impala, correct? I think you did some analysis on 140.1.
Yes, that is correct.
And this was the parent item that we talked about earlier, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And regarding your analysis of this item, what was your result again regarding Mr. Rowland's inclusion on that item?
Specifically for item 140.1, the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture originating from 4 individuals. The scenario 1 being Nathaniel Rowland and 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture versus scenario 2 of it being 4 unidentified unrelated individuals contributing to the mixture. The result of that comparison is the DNA profile is approximately 11 octillion times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 4 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
11 octillion.
That is correct.
How many zeros are there in octillion?
27.
There has been a lot of discussion this afternoon in this courtroom about unrelated, unidentified individuals, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Pinnock referred to them earlier when questioning you as loosely as other people, but we're actually talking about other DNA profiles, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And to that end, can you say whether all of those profiles, all of those unrelated, unidentified individuals, whether they were all left at the same time on an item?
No, I cannot tell that.
Or in a location?
No.
Could have been left 2 different times, correct?
Yes, that is
Could
correct.
it have been 50 different times?
Yes, that is possible.
1,000 times?
It is possible.
She asked you about, I believe it was 13 different items out of the vehicle, the Impala, and referenced unrelated, unidentified individuals regarding each one of those items. Those unidentified, unrelated individuals. Could those profiles have come from any person that's ever come in contact with that vehicle at any time?
Yes, that is possible.
The driver, perhaps?
Yes.
Passenger?
Yes.
Could it be from a mechanic doing work on the car?
Yes, that's possible.
Body shop worker?
Yes.
Even an assembly line manufacturer when the car was originally made?
Yes, that's possible.
She also asked you the same thing in regards to a number of items collected from Mountainbrook in the trash, correct?
Yes.
Would the same be true for almost all of those items regarding clothing, correct? I'm sorry, I'll rephrase the question. I'll restate the question. Is it possible that any person that's ever come in contact with, say, clothing found in those trash bags could have left their DNA profile there?
That is correct.
Or anyone who's ever come in contact with the grocery bags found in that location?
Yes, that is possible.
To include sales clerks?
Yes, that is possible.
Manufacturers?
Yes, that's possible.
Thank you, that's all.
Any further cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
And for another movie quote, and there was much rejoicing.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today. We will resume at 9:30 on Monday morning. Remember the admonition that you are to not be exposed to any information about the case outside of the courtroom, not to discuss the case with anyone or allow anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence, because you are to decide the case solely on what you hear in this courtroom, and it would be unfair to your fellow jurors to deliberate with someone out in the streets, you might say, who have not heard the testimony. Not only unfair to your fellow jurors, but it would be a violation of your oath as jurors, and you don't want to do that. When you return on Monday, juror number 130, I'm appointing you to be the foreperson of the jury. As a foreperson, you take the first seat here in the corner. I believe that's a foreperson seat on the front row. And that'll be the foreperson's seat. It'll be your responsibility to serve from this point forward as a spokesperson for the jury. It'll be your responsibility to preside over the jury deliberations, and it will be your responsibility to write the verdict form representing the unanimous verdict of the jury when we reach that point at the end of the case. So I hope you'll have a good weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning.
Okay, so as the jury leaves, we're going to pick up with the next video here in just 1 second. I want to see if there's any business they have to conduct after the jury's out of their presence, though. Hope that juror isn't married. Yes, Judge Newman does this, and we saw this in the Alex Murdaugh trial as well. He goes in there and says, "Hey, I'm gonna pick somebody. I'm gonna pick him." So that's what I do. All right, judge is back.
If any of you have been exposed to anything that affects your ability to be fair and impartial in this case, please raise your hand. All right, very good. We'll press on. You may call your next witness.
State call Dr. Thomas Beaver.
Okay, we are going to issue a little content warning here. There might be some descriptions and/or pictures that are shown here of the crime and discussion about it that are not for kids. So we've got a little warning. We'll go into this way, but we expected this as this is a murder trial, and that's what we're watching it for. We'll repin this one.
My name is Dr. Thomas Richard Beaver, B-E-A-V-E-R.
Good morning, Dr. Beaver.
Good morning.
What's your profession?
I'm a forensic pathologist.
And tell us what a forensic pathologist is.
Yes, a forensic pathologist is a physician who has been specifically trained to determine the cause, manner, and mechanism of death in cases of unexplained death.
And are you a licensed physician?
Yes, sir.
In what states?
I'm licensed in the state of Florida, South Carolina, of course, California, and I didn't renew my West Virginia license this year, and I was previously licensed in Colorado, and I let that expire as well. it's expensive, and I don't practice there.
All right. And how long have you been a forensic pathologist?
I finished training in 1992 and went to work at that time as a forensic pathologist, so it'll be July of 92.
So roughly 29 years?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me a little bit about your background, your education, things of that nature?
Certainly. I have an undergraduate degree from the University of California. I have a medical degree from St. George's University School of Medicine. I completed a 5-year residency training program in anatomic pathology and clinical pathology at the University of Colorado, and I completed a fellowship in forensic pathology at the Denver County Coroner's Office. I took the certifying examinations given by the American Board of Pathology in anatomic pathology and clinical pathology and forensic pathology, passing all those exams on the first attempt. So that makes me board certified in anatomic pathology, clinical pathology, and forensic pathology.
All right. And when you say board certified, I know you talked about these exams that you passed on the first attempt. Just what does that mean, I guess, in layman's terms, that you're board certified?
So before you can become board certified, you have to complete the requisite training program satisfactorily. So you have to, in my case, I did 5-year training program to get both anatomic and clinical pathology. Once you complete that training, then you're eligible to take the exam. So you take the exam. The pass rate is less than 50%. In the group of forensic pathologists that took the forensic pathology exam, it was about 50% was the pass rate. To pass all those exams on the first attempt is really unusual.
No, in your 29 years
It's
of
just
being a
showing
forensic
off.
pathologist, have you received any awards? Or special recognition, any honors, things of that nature?
Yeah, so I was appointed to the Crime Lab Council in the state of Florida by the governor, and so that's about the only thing. I don't really seek awards or anything like that, so I don't really promote myself.
And what positions
Other
have you
than right
held?
here, where I passed on the first try.
So my first job out of training, I was in a private practice pathology group in Modesto, California, and in that group I covered. I was the only forensic pathologist, so I covered all the counties of Central Florida. Central California, and it won't mean much to you, but it's Stanislaus County, Merced, Amador, Tuolumne, and Calaveras. Those are all little counties in the Central Valley. Modesto is the city, and that's where I would live. Then I moved to Florida, where I became the associate medical examiner in Panama City, Florida. I was there a little bit more than a year, and then I moved to the chief medical examiner position in Daytona Beach. Florida is a medical examiner state. It's divided up into districts, 25 districts. Each district gets a medical examiner appointed by the governor for 2 or 3 year term. And so I was in Daytona Beach for almost 9 years. And then I took a teaching position at Texas Tech University, where I was the director of the Division of Forensic Sciences within the university. In that capacity, not only did I teach medical students and residents, which is what I do now, but I also was the director of their forensic science program, which included undergraduate track as well as a master's in forensic science.
Were you in California at some point in time?
Yes, so I was there about 3 years, then I went to California. My wife had a seizure, and it turned out to be brain cancer, and she wanted to be back home, and so we went to California. Took care of her for a while, and then had to go back to Oregon. I took a position at Alameda County, I was the chief forensic pathologist in Alameda County.
And would that be the Oakland area?
That's Oakland, California, a big office. I had 22 investigators. I had 8 technicians, 6 clerical staff. We never turned off the lights and never locked the door because we ran 24/7.
How long were you in that area, Alameda County?
Yeah, I was in Alameda County for about 3 years, and finished my kids all out of the nest, and they were all out in their own lives. And I decided to go back to Florida, and I took a job in the Florida Keys, and I was the
wasted
medical
electricity
examiner
and didn't
for
run a secure
District 16,
facility.
which is the Florida Keys, the Monroe County.
No. And if I can, I'm going to kind of focus this now to South Carolina.
Sure, absolutely.
Sure. How long have you been in South Carolina?
Since June of 2018.
Okay, and what is your position here?
I'm an associate professor at Medical University of South Carolina.
Okay. And in the position as associate professor at NUSC, as I'll call it, you perform autopsies?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is an autopsy?
So an autopsy is an examination of the body externally and internally. It's a systematic examination, so there's certain things that we just do the same way every single time. It starts with the external, so we're looking on the surface of the body for evidence of therapy, scars and identifying marks, evidence of injury, and then just a general condition of the body. The internal examination, we make incisions on the body, so that we can access all the body cavities and organs. The organs are removed individually and sequentially and dissected and biopsied. We take photographs the entire process, so every step of the way we take pictures. So,
and then I'll ask this question because we'll get a little bit more in depth in a couple minutes about that. Roughly how many autopsies have you performed in the last 29 years?
Oh, yes, sir. I don't keep a count, but it's probably 10,000 and it may be more.
Okay. Have you been declared as an expert in the field of forensic pathology?
Oh, yes, sir, I have.
Okay. In the multiple states where you practiced?
Yes, many times.
And in South Carolina as well?
Yes, sir.
All right. Your Honor, I'd like to offer Dr. Beaver as an expert in forensic pathology.
Yeah, he is so qualified.
Okay. No, thank you. Now we can get into a few more specifics. Now, you were talking about kind of the methodology that you use when you perform autopsies.
Yes, sir.
And you talked about pictures a moment ago and just how in depth you kind of remove organs and how you kind of systematically go through that process, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, what I'll ask is this. With that methodology, you first said that you take pictures.
Yes.
Okay, and you detail, like you said, systematically the organs. And that's just the process that you go through in every autopsy.
Yes.
Why do you take pictures?
So the pictures I taken to document injuries. I think the old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, probably is accurate here. And and it's oftentimes easier to show someone something than it is to explain it by words. So now with the availability of digital photography and very good cameras and easy storage, we take the photographs that we would, to explain what we see.
Did you have the, do you take x-rays?
Yes, sir, I do take x-rays. In this case, we took 13 x-rays.
Okay, well, and now we're going to focus on this case in just a moment, but you generally take x-rays as part of your process?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now let's focus then. Let's get to it. So did you have an opportunity to perform an autopsy on Samantha Josephson?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. And the process that you talked about, that was what you followed as you performed that autopsy, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So tell us, let's start with photographs. You said you normally take photographs. Did you do that here?
Yes, sir.
Approximately how many photographs did you take?
170 photographs.
Okay. Why so many?
There were a lot of injuries.
Okay. And x-rays, I was just mentioning. Did you take x-rays?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many?
I took 13 x-rays.
Why is that?
So we take x-rays in the case of gunshot wounds as well as stab wounds. And so I had initially seen sharp force injuries, stab wounds. So that makes me think that I need to take x-rays in this case. And I'm looking for perhaps pieces of the knife that have broken off. When the knife hits bone, it will either bend or break. So many times.
So you're saying steel will bend or break if it hits bone?
Yes, if there's enough force applied and the knife blade is not sturdy enough, it will bend, or else maybe the tip will break off. When the tip breaks off, we can match that to a weapon if we recover it.
Now, as Ms. Josephson was presented to you in March of 2019, what was her body weight and height?
Yeah, she was 69 inches tall, and she weighed 160 pounds.
All right. And you alluded to some of this a moment ago. When she presented you, what was it that you saw that grasped your immediate attention?
There were two things first. The first thing was that she had an extensive amount of insect activity on the surface of the body. And the second thing, pretty much at the same time, was that she had many stab wounds over the surfaces of the body.
Now, you talked a moment ago about, you said sharp force injuries.
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain to the jury how you characterize sharp force injuries.
So in the universe of injuries for forensic pathologists, things are either blunt force or sharp force. And sharp force injuries are broken down into two types. Incised wounds, which are wounds that are longer than they are deep. So these would be, some people might refer to them as a scratch or a cut. And then there are stab wounds, and the stab wounds are deeper than they are wide or long. So these are wounds that are where the knife has gone in, there's made a little cut in the skin, but the blade has gone deeper into the body. So
would some people call those puncture wounds?
Puncture wounds, yes. Stab wounds. So I won't know, when I first see a sharp force injury, I won't know whether it's classified as a stab wound or an incised wound until I probe the wound and see how deep it goes.
All right. And when you probe the wound, explain to the jury what you mean by probing a wound.
So I have a metal probe that it's like a thin piece of metal, and I put that into the wound, and I try to follow the path of the wound, and then and I mark the spot on the skin with my fingers by grasping it. And when I pull it out, I can then match it to a ruler, and I can see exactly how far the probe went in.
Now, again, you captured all of these things that you did by way of taking photographs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And would that assist you in explaining to the jury, what you observed and why, and your findings as a result of what you observed?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'd like to first begin by showing you a series of pictures. And you talked about just kind of the methodology you use. As you perform this autopsy, did you, because of the number of stab wounds as you mentioned, did you do them in groupings? Did you try to group them differently than you normally would?
Yes, sir. Once the number gets up around 100, it really makes the autopsy report and any description very bulky. So I try to group them where they're closely together and related. So yes, I'll group them into groups of 5 or 6 or 8 in a certain area.
And you mentioned the number 100. Were you able to count the number of stab wounds as you observed Ms. Josephson's body?
Yes, it's over 100. I think somewhere around 120. But gets to a point where it doesn't really add much to the report.
Courts and indulgence, Your Honor? Yes, sir.
So this guy had a tough job. There were a lot of wounds to measure, over 100, all caused with that little multi-tool weapon. So this is the warning, guys. We're going to go into the details of some of these injuries. They're going to show pictures of some of these injuries.
For purposes of this organization, I prefer to go, let's go head to toe.
You might want to stay
so we can talk about some of these matters. I'm going to show you, and at this point I'll show them to you. You can, in my question to you, I'm just going to explain the process to make sure we're clear. Do not show these to the jury as I show them to you. I want you to tell me if you recognize them first, then we'll talk about them before we do any publishing of any pictures. Is that
understand? I understand.
All right. So, Your Honor, I'm going to approach the witness. They are states 347, states 346, states 342, and states 341.
Repeat that for me, please.
I'm sorry. 347, 346, 342, and 341.
Okay.
And do you recognize these photographs?
Yes, sir, I recognize these photos.
Okay, so let's start, if you'll start with the photograph on top. Please refer to that exhibit number. Let's just talk about what you observed in that photograph.
Okay, so I'm looking at exhibit number 3, or is it 341? 341?
Yes, sir.
And it's a photo taken at autopsy. The body is in the supine position.
What does supine position mean?
It means face is up. Face is up in supine, and then prone, the face would be down. So she's laying on her back in this particular photograph.
Yes, sir.
And we're showing a close-up of the left side of her face. At the bottom of the frame is her left ear. Towards the left side of the frame is her chin. The eye and eyebrow are towards the upper right corner. And what we see in the center of the frame is her cheek. And on the cheek are a number of parallel cutaneous defects, which I would describe as abrasions. And they're abrasions that you would get if the body was dragged.
You used a term of art, cutaneous. What does cutaneous mean?
Cutaneous is just the skin. And
so you're seeing scratches on the skin is what you're suggesting?
Yes, sir. I'm seeing scratches on the skin, and they're parallel scratches. So I think that the scratching surface that's scratching your skin is going in one direction, all going in one direction.
Okay, and that suggests the person's being dragged?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's look at, again, not publishing to the jury yet, let's look at the next picture
so now
import. Yeah, and explain again that exhibit number and tell us what you see in that picture.
Yes, sir. I'm looking at exhibit number 342. And this is another picture taken at the time of autopsy. Again, the body is in the supine position. It's a close-up photo, and it shows the right side of the head. To the extreme right lower corner is the right ear. Towards the left side of the frame is the top of the head. Towards the extreme upper right corner of the frame is the nose. And so in the center of the frame, we're looking at the right side of the forehead, the right eye, and right eyebrow.
And so, what is it of, did you notice any defects to Ms. Josephson in those pictures?
Oh, yes, sir, there's many.
Now, explain to the jury another term of art what a defect is.
So, a defect would be anything done to the skin that is not part of a normal process. So, if I cut myself shaving, that would be a defect that I created. So, it can be an abrasion from rubbing on the skin. It could be a stab wound. It could be a bruise. It could be a burn. So, a defect is a very generic term for a number of different injuries that might have occurred to the skin.
So explain to the jury the defects, just without the picture, without the visual, which you can point yourself, if that will help at the moment, the defects that you observed when you performed this autopsy on Ms. Josephson, based on State's Exhibit number 342.
Yes, so she has bruising over the forehead and the right side of her face. She has a stab wound in the eyebrow. She has a number of other stab wounds on the right side of the face. And
may I interrupt you for a moment? You said a stab wound to the eyebrow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a moment ago you mentioned you take x-rays, correct?
Yes, sir.
And one of the reasons you take those, as you said, was to see if there may be damage to a weapon, to a knife?
Yes, sir. This is the primary reason. When I saw these stab wounds to the head, the skull is a very hard bone, very thick, and stabbing the skull frequently results in the knife bending or breaking. And so it immediately alerted me to take x-rays because we might have a piece of the knife actually embedded in the skull.
Thank you, sir. Please continue.
So I find that she also has an abrasion on the corner of the eye, and as I said, some bruising. The right eye is somewhat collapsed, and that's probably from some trauma to it. And then there's hemorrhaging to the periorbital tissues, the tissue around the eye. She's got a black eye, basically.
Now let's talk about that word you just mentioned, is there hemorrhaging. Is there a way to determine if wounds take place if a person is living or post-mortem when they're dead?
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain that, and extravasated, I believe is the term that's used often. But explain those terms to the hemorrhaging versus extravasated to the jury, if you would, please.
Sure. So hemorrhage is an active process, and it requires a blood pressure. So when the person's alive, their heart's beating, they have a blood pressure. So all the blood vessels in the body are under a pressure, and the blood flows. Extravasated means that the blood has drained out of the blood vessel. So if we cut, say, a blood vessel and there's no blood pressure, blood will still drip out of it, but it's not under any kind of force. There is no hemorrhage going on. But if the person's got a blood pressure and you cut the blood vessel, then the blood will squirt out. It will be forcefully expelled from the blood vessel by the blood pressure. So it would kind of be like if you had a hose and the water was turned off and you cut the hose, you would expect a few drops of water to come out of the cut, but it wouldn't be much. If the hose was turned on and you cut it, then you would expect the water to come out forcefully. That's the difference between extravasated and hemorrhage.
All right. And so in this case, you said hemorrhaging?
Yes, sir. She has hemorrhage.
Okay. So which suggests she was alive when these wounds were inflicted?
Yes, sir.
All right. So please continue as you were describing State's Exhibit number 342.
There are also some wounds in the hair that we can see. And when I saw these wounds, I felt around in the hair. She has thick hair, and I could feel other wounds. So at that point, I know I'm going to have to remove some of the hair to get a good look at the wounds.
Did you do that in this case?
Yes, sir, I did.
And once you removed the hair, explain to the jury what you saw, just verbally. Explain what you saw.
So behind, on the right side of the head, behind and kind of above the right ear, there were multiple stab wounds.
Did you see anything else of interest in State's 342 that you need to explain to the jury verbally?
No, sir, I think that's all.
Okay. Now let's turn to the next exhibit. Tell us, again, just identify it. Do not publish that to the jury at the moment. What's the next picture you have in front of you?
Yes, sir, I'm looking now at 346.
So State's 346. Take a look at that. Do you recognize that picture?
Yes, sir, I do.
Tell us what you see there.
Okay. It's another picture taken at the time of autopsy. And again, she's in the supine position. This is not as close up as the other photos. And at the top of the picture is the case number that we put in the photos, and it's the unique identifier that we try to get in all the pictures. The photo itself shows her top of her head to the left side of the frame, and her right shoulder at the extreme right lower corner. The number placard partially obscures her face, but in the center of the photo, we can see her right ear and part of the right side of her head. We can see the area that I shaved off the hair, so we could look at the injuries there. We also see a number of injuries to the right side of the neck. Also in this picture behind the right ear, I've placed a letter, an adhesive letter, that's part of how we keep track of the wounds.
What letter is on that?
It's letter L.
Okay. And what does that signify, the letter L in this case?
So far I've gotten to the letter L. So I start at A. I have a sheet of these letters, and I just peel and stick them. It's just a peel and stick thing, and I will stick them on where the wounds are.
Okay.
And so
sequentially, if you went, I guess that's probably numerically, you went A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L.
L.
So
yes.
this is the L stab wound is what we're speaking about.
Yes, we're on L now. This particular photograph shows us the L that I put there, and all the wounds either got their own individual letter or the grouping of wounds got a letter, and then it was photographed. And that's so that if somebody wants to talk about these wounds, they can say, well, I'm talking about letter L. And then we can all look at the picture and know that this is the wound. Also, in this picture is a probe. Part of what I mentioned before about determining the depth of the wound is place a probe in the wound, and then that way we were able to tell the depth of this wound and its approximate path.
Can you show the jury on yourself? Can you point to the area on yourself where that probe was placed?
Yes, it's right kind of below and behind the ear, right here. I don't know if that's...
So the record could reflect that Dr. D was pointing behind his left ear, kind of where the skull and the neckline meet. Is that correct? Yes. And did you measure that probe at some point?
Yes.
Okay, how deep was that wound?
I'd have to look at my report, but I believe it's about 4 centimeters.
Okay. Do you have the report with you?
Yes, sir, I do.
Would it help your recollection to take a look at that?
Yes, it would.
Please.
It probes to a depth of 3.6 centimeters.
Okay. Can you show us just kind of with your fingers about what 3.6 centimeters is?
Yes, sir. I think it's about that far.
All right. And what type of damage would a wound
3.6 centimeters is just like an inch and a half.
Did you say centimeters?
Centimeters, yes.
That's not an inch and a
into
half.
the area that you just showed. What type of effect could that have based on your medical experience?
Yes, it can go into the skull and into the brain, and that would be a serious wound.
Okay. Life-threatening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any additional things that you'd like to point out as it relates to states 346 at this point?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, if you'll take a look at, I believe that's states 347 with the same instructions, just take a look at it and tell us verbally what you see.
Yes, sir. I'm looking now at 347.
Okay.
And this is a picture, again, taken at autopsy, very similar to the last one, showing the right side of her head and neck. Towards the top of this frame is her nose. Towards the left side is the top of her head. Towards the right side is her the base of her neck. And what I'm doing in this photograph is I'm holding the ear forward so we can see behind the ear. There is a stab wound that actually goes through the ear and then ends up going into the skin behind the ear. And so to demonstrate that, I've pulled the skin forward. We can see the L that I said previously that designates this wound, actually another wound. The ones behind the ear are different. But that's what we're seeing here. And we also see the stab wounds to her neck.
Court's indulgence. Your Honor, I'd like to have States Exhibits 341, 342, 346, and 347 admitted in evidence at this time.
They're marked for identification at this time.
Okay, here we go.
I'd like to have them entered into evidence at this time, Your Honor.
They're identification only at this time.
Yes, sir.
Identification only. Why is the judge not allowing them?
And did you take these photos?
Yes, sir, I did.
Were they taken in a normal course of business?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Because he hasn't done the foundation.
Now let's look at. I'm going to start giving you. Let's talk a little bit more after we talk about the neck and the head. let's talk about the torso next. So I'm going to hand you just a series of pictures at this point in time, and I'll show you exactly which ones these ones are.
Can anyone who's watched ahead let me know if those images are going to be shown on the screen? These are extremely graphic. The descriptions are also quite a bit, but if the pictures are going to be shown up, I might make it a little smaller on the screen.
All right, I'm going to hand you
You published the photographs that are in evidence. The exhibit numbers are.
Thank you. The exhibit number I'm going to show you, Your Honor, excuse me, Dr. Beaver, states number 343, states number 344, states number 349, states number 350, states number 351, states number 352, states number 353, states number 354, states number 355, states number 356, and states number 357.
They are in evidence.
I'd like to hand you these ones. All right, so let's start with the torso, if you will. We'll parse through those, take a look at those, and let's take the pictures of the torso out first. And let's talk about what you observed in the torso.
Madam Clover, it's not a question of if we want to see them. It's whether or not YouTube will ban my channel permanently if they're shown.
Okay.
All right. So which number do you have in front of you, sir?
So I'm going to start with states 356, I believe it is.
All right. Can the witness step down here? Yes. All right. You can step down so we can talk the jury. And you can bring that photo with you. Now looking at states 356. All right. Explain to the jury. Let's turn this way so you're facing the court reporter, and I'll hold this in. Tell the jury what you're seeing here.
So this photo taken at the time of autopsy.
No, we'll have to rotate around. We may need to pause so each juror can see.
And the bottom is the placard. This is the placard I was talking about earlier, 275 sort of number. Then we're looking at her back, and now she's rolled up on her side. So we're looking at the left side, that's being her left arm at the top, and her right shoulder at the bottom. And we have cleaned her up. So we washed off blood and things like that might have obscured the injuries. But we still see a lot of these, sort of the skin is sort of abraded off. And these yellow waxy looking things, that's all insect activity. So that's what, and this specific insects are ants in this case. So ants have taken and started to kind of take off the superficial layers of her skin. But there are also injuries here. And so we can see a stab wound here, a stab wound here, a stab wound here, and a stab wound here. So she has a number of stab wounds on what I would call the flank area. So in this area of her back. These wounds, one of these goes actually into the lung, but then the other ones
I can answer this for you, Natalie.
The internal organs. They go superficially, centimeter or two, but not into an internal organ. But the main thing is the insect activity.
Once they're a certain size of channel, they get personal help, like physical people who will help them navigate some of these.
So take a look at the next torso.
Instead of just a computer that bans things.
I think, yes, I think this is, most of the rest are not torso, so I think this is the next one.
All right, well, tell us who we're looking at if you show us, and tell us what exhibit you're looking at.
So I am looking at 352, states 352. And this is a photo. This time the body is laying on its back, it's supine. So she's laying on the table back. We've got the placard in here with her identifier, and we're looking at the abdomen here, and her hand is kind of resting up on the abdomen. So we can see here some of that insect activity again on her wrist. So the ants in this case have done that. Then we can see the knuckles of her hand. She has a little defect right there on that knuckle, which it's indicative of some type of blow, perhaps. And then she has a little bit of discoloration in the knuckles, contusion, maybe.
And if we can sit around this way for the jury.
Okay, so we have some swelling in the knuckles, maybe some discoloration, and we have this little defect here. And then the rest of the torso looks okay to me, and an indication of insect activity on her wrist.
If you could take the next photo in the order that you'd like to go through as well.
Sure, I think we'll just start here. So this one is 343.
Okay, so stage 343. All right.
So here, we're looking at the arm. And so first, we have the insect activity I've been talking about. And then we have two wounds, here and here. So superficial wounds, where her arm came in contact with a knife or sharp instrument, cut there. And so this is the back of the left arm. So in this area here, you can see her elbow here, and there's another injury here. So there's 1, 2, 3 injuries on that arm. And the yellow waxy material is post-mortem from ants.
And let's take a look at the next photo.
So now, stage 349.
Stage 349. Okay, explain to the jury what we're looking at here.
So this is the right shoulder and part of the right neck. So she's laying on her back, and the right shoulder is here in the center. Up to the far right corner of the frame is her right ear and some of the injuries on her right neck. But so what we have are multiple stab wounds in this small area. So in forensic pathology, we like to think of things that are close together in space, are close together in time. So these injuries would be from rapidly inflicting stab wounds, because they're all very close together. Some of them are overlapping. And there's a couple in here that caught my attention almost immediately. And they're parallel. They're two parallel cuts. And we will see others like that. And that, to me, I said that's unique. It's very difficult to put wounds exactly spaced apart and exactly parallel. And so it made me think that we were dealing with an odd weapon and that we would be able to identify this weapon. So so this is the first real kind of clue I started thinking about. It's when I saw that right there.
Yes, sir.
And that made me start to think about the type of weapon being perhaps not just generic knife, but maybe now something unique. So she has other wounds in her neck here, but again, these are all grouped together, and I would group this as a single grouping of wounds because they're all in the same area, they're all about the same size, and they go into the musculature. They're not going to be fatal in and of themselves with medical treatment. They're not going to be lethal.
Now, if you look again at stage exhibit number 349 that we've been referring to, are you able to see any defects to her ear there?
Yes, sir. So this one at the far right, you can see there's a defect in the ear here. That's a stab wound that actually goes through the ear and into the neck from behind the ear. And we were talking about a photo earlier where I tipped the ear forward, and that was to see what that actually went through the ear.
Which exhibit number?
349, Your Honor. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We did deal. The same process. What exhibit are we looking at?
Yes, sir. This one is 344.
All right, 344. I'll hold that.
So here we're looking at the body again laying on the back. This time we're looking at the left arm. So we have the left arm and hand here. And the placard's in here. The arm is running across the frame and towards the bottom of the frame. And we can see the insect activity here, but she also has two small wounds on the forearm, and there's some hemorrhage into the soft tissues of the arm. Again, the wound's not lethal, but it just shows the level of activity.
Look at the next photo, please, sir. So we're looking at states number 350, 350. That's it. That's you.
So this wound, this photo, excuse me, you can see the peel and stick thing that I was talking about earlier, and the placard is at the bottom. She's lying on her back on the table, and we're looking at the right arm here. You can see one of the wounds that was up on the right shoulder, or in the grouping of the right shoulder right here. It's not a good angle photographically, so you can just see the discoloration of the skin. And then you see two parallel wounds in the elbow. So that to me, that was starting to, again, I'm starting to think about, at the time of the autopsy, I'm thinking these two parallel wounds to be that close together and parallel like that is very unusual, and it's going to mean something. I just need to figure it out. And then you can see her torso here. I don't see much there. Her hand would be off the frame to the bottom.
Thank you, sir. Let's grab that next one.
The people in the background are the gallery. They have not shown the jury in this trial.
What number is that?
This is number 357. 357. So this photo, we're looking at the foot, and it's the right foot, and she's laying on her back, and there are some stab wounds here. And here we see really well that two parallel stab wounds that I was talking about. And when I probe these wounds, they run exactly parallel as well. So it's not like the knife went this way or this way, they're parallel in every respect. And so that's unique. And here I got the sense that there might be one and then two, but the knife didn't go very deep. So now I'm looking at this really being some type of a unique weapon. And
oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anything else you'd like to discuss?
There's hemorrhage. You can see some pinkish discoloration around the wound, and that is hemorrhage. So we know she's got a blood pressure at this point, and blood is being forced out into the skin around the wound once the blood vessels are cut.
Thank you, sir.
That second earring is probably still at the crime scene and probably could be located by somebody with a metal detector. Just saying.
355.
Especially when you have a known sample, you've got the one earring and not the other. You can get a test on what it sounds
So
like.
now
You
we're
can
going to look
eliminate
at
everything else.
the
They're
right
easy to
hand.
find.
So placard's at the top. She's laying on her back. We're looking at the right arm. To the far right of the frame is about where her elbow starts, or and then to the right of the frame are the tips of her fingers. And we're looking at this wound on the palm of her hand. So this is two parallel stab wounds. Small, exactly parallel, and they probe all the way through the hand. And they go side by side all the way through the hand. So and there's hemorrhage around, so you know she has blood pressure at this point. So there's a couple things to take away from this. First of all, it's a defensive type injury. You're being attacked with a knife, you put your hand up to try to reflexively block that attack. And the knife goes through your hand. That's what happened here. And both of those wounds are parallel. They're the same kind of parallel, close together stab wounds that we saw on the foot and the shoulder. And here they're really it's a really good demonstration. So I took another photograph closer up.
Would you get that one, please? Thank you. Would it help follow both of those
Yes,
side by
sir.
side?
Yes, sir.
So we're looking at State's Exhibit number 354 and 355.
So I took a closer picture of the palm of the hand. We're looking at the palm of the right hand again. Towards the top would be her wrist, towards the bottom, tips of her fingers. And these wounds are exactly two little cuts that are parallel to each other. And they're a set distance apart. Doesn't vary. And they go all the way through the hand. So this wound is what you would expect for someone trying to defend themselves from a stab, and the knife hits them. But in this case, the knife is unique because it's got these two blades. It would have to have two blades or two pieces to the blade that would be parallel. And so at this point, I knew we could find a knife, we could match it up with this wound, because there's just, and I actually went to Google and I looked at about 1,000 pictures of knives, and I couldn't find any knife that was like this, that had those kinds of parallel blades. So, we'll hit the next one.
Yes, sir.
So, We're going to look at 353. 353. So 353 is the right hand again. This time we're looking at the back of the right hand. So remember I said that the wounds to the palm went all the way through and came out the back. And so now we're looking at where it comes out in the back. And again, there are two parallel wounds side by side. And so coming out like that, there would have to be two parallel blades. So we have the hemorrhage around it, so she has a blood pressure, and the wounds are exactly parallel, and they're that set distance apart. So that would take some kind of a unique instrument to do that.
Are there all those last photos?
I think I have one more.
Okay.
This is 351. So here is the left arm, and it shows us the insect activity. Sometimes based on the positioning of the body and what the insects have access to, can tell us something. So sometimes if a body is moved from one place to another, the insects get on the body at one place and do damage some skin, and then the body's moved to another place where the insects don't have access, that can help us to piece together what happened. So that's why this photo was taken. There aren't any real significant injuries here, just hand activity. So that's the left arm. So the pattern here is that all injuries are occurring on the right side of the body, right shoulder, right side of the face and neck, down this right hand, left arm relatively spare.
Can you offer an opinion as to what would happen for those major injuries to take place on the right side of one's body?
That would be the side exposed to the attack.
Can I see the jury box if you would, please? Now, sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked at State's Exhibit number 294. Would you like to hear those?
Yes, sir. Here.
I'm sorry, State's Exhibit number 295. I'm handing you now with State's Exhibit number 295. You referenced multiple times. Well, tell us what you're seeing with that that interests you as you look at this.
This knife has two blades, and they are relatively parallel. They are bent at the tip, and they're the size appropriate for the wounds that I saw. This is the weapon.
And as you look at this, based on your 29 years as a forensic pathologist, do you have an opinion of that weapon and the injuries that Samantha Josephson sustained?
Yes, the parallel cuts are made by this.
Now, did you see, may I have State's number 225 back, please? Did you see some singular stab wounds as well?
Yes, and many, in fact, the majority of the stab wounds were singular stab wounds.
Let me hand that to you.
So,
please speak to the jury.
Yes, sir. So once this is pulled apart, like this, now it's a single-bladed weapon. So that's one of the things that was confusing me at the autopsy was I thought there must be two weapons because there was the parallel blade ones and then there were the single ones. So I thought it's unusual to have two weapons. But now I think it's explained to my satisfaction that this is the knife in this conformation would make the parallel wounds that I saw, and then if it's in this conformation, it could then make the single stab wounds.
I would explain that differently. I can show you with my multi-tool in just a minute.
Perform this all the time. Well, I'm sorry, that question. How much blood does a human body only contain?
It's about 4 or 5 liters.
4 or 5 liters?
Yes, sir.
And so in U.S. metrics and American metrics, what is that?
It's probably close to a gallon.
Okay. And so as you performed the autopsy on Ms. Josephson, how much blood was found in her body?
It was not a lot. I found 20 milliliters in the pleural cavity, right pleural cavity, and really we had difficulty obtaining the blood that we used for toxicology.
All right. And so 20 milliliters is about how much, if you could, again in layman's terms, tell us what 20 milliliters looks like?
Maybe an eighth of a cup.
Okay. So about this much?
Yes, yeah, a couple tablespoons, maybe 3.
So based on the wounds that you saw and the fact that about 5 liters of blood should be in a human body, yes, where would you expect the blood to be found in this type of activity, in this type of case?
She's going to bleed out.
She's going to bleed out, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And one of the neck wounds involves the carotid artery and the jugular vein. We haven't talked about it much, but that wound would produce a lot of blood flow.
Okay. And you'd expect to find that blood where?
Wherever it took place, wherever these wounds were inflicted, the blood would come out immediately, just like the hose analogy.
All right. Now you mentioned the neck wounds and the jugular vein. Is there something called a hyoid bone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk to the jury about the hyoid bone and what you observed with that.
Yes, sir. For a forensic pathologist, the hyoid bone has a great significance. It's a little horseshoe-shaped bone. Literally, it would fit inside my hand right here, and it sits up high in the neck.
If you'll just show us,
sure. It sits up high in the neck.
Yes, sir.
And it's hooked to the back of the tongue and to part of the larynx. And it's a free-floating bone. It doesn't articulate with anything. It's not like an elbow or something. It's hinged by muscle. So there's muscle of the tongue on one side of it, muscle on the throat on the other side of it. So, and for us, it's the sine qua non, and that which names, of manual strangulation. So if you strangle somebody, you put your hands on their neck and you squeeze, that will fracture the hyoid bone. So when we see a fractured hyoid bone, it is manual strangulation until proven otherwise. The bone, because it sits so high up in the neck, it's very punches and blows to the neck don't affect it. Because it's mobile and it's attached to muscle, again, blows to the neck generally don't affect it. You have to get that squeezing motion to fracture it. So she had a defect in her hyoid bone on the right side. In her case, though, I'm not of the opinion that it's a strangulation. I think it came from one of the stab wounds to her neck. The knife actually got up high enough to sever the hyoid bone.
So is your suggestion, say it's number 295, this knife would have gotten high enough to sever that bone?
Yes, sir. And so it doesn't say for us that, for me, it doesn't say absolutely. I couldn't tell you absolutely there was no manual strangulation involved, but I can tell you I would favor that it was done by a knife, by the stab wound. But it would be high to do because that bone is relatively protected. Even in ligature, when we see a ligature strangulation or someone committing suicide with a ligature.
What is a ligature? I'm sorry. Explain what a ligature is.
Oh, so if we put a rope around the neck, very common way people commit suicide, common way for people to attack each other. And even then, you don't see fractured hyoid bone because the ligature, the rope, or the wire, or the foam cord slips up over the bone or slips up underneath the bone, but it doesn't get the hyoid bone. So hyoid bone for a forensic pathologist is manual strangulation until proven otherwise.
All right. And so here you said there's a severed jugular?
Yes, and carotid artery as well.
All right. And so based on your 29 years as a forensic pathologist, are those wounds lethal wounds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so when we talk about the types of lethal wounds that you saw, we talked about an injury to the brain.
Yes, sir.
And we talked about the injuries to the hyoid bone.
Yes, sir.
And the jugular. Any or both of those could be considered lethal wounds?
Yes.
Okay. And the wounds that you saw consistent with stage number 295, the knife you talked about, do you have an opinion right now that you can tell this jury of what caused Samantha Josephson's death?
Yes. Multiple stab wounds. I made the cause of death multiple stab wounds.
Gentlemen, we're going to have you go to the jury room for a break now. Please do not discuss the case.
We got a brief break here. That was quite descriptive. Just awful scene. Awful. To have, I think, who was it that said in chat, basically the equivalent of a dose of NyQuil worth of blood left in the body. That was crazy. Crazy.
All right, welcome back. You may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now I'm going to show you Dr. Beaver State's exhibits number 347 and State's exhibit number 341. Can you take a look at those, please? We discussed them briefly, but I want you to take a look at those.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are those familiar to you?
Yes, sir.
And those, again, are pictures from the autopsy that were taken that you performed?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'd like to have those two exhibits entered into evidence, Your Honor. Thank you. Can the witness step down, please?
We're going to take lunch in about an hour and 15 minutes.
Now, Dr. Beaver, first I'm going to show you what's been marked. State's exhibit number 341. As we talked about your testimony earlier, will you explain to the jury the significance of this photograph and what that helped you ascertain?
So the first thing that I didn't mention before, but it's a good thing. So I didn't mention this before, but it's a good thing this reminds me. Insect larvae are here. So that's what those are. And so flies will come to the body almost immediately within a matter of minutes. They lay their eggs and the eggs hatch. And that's what you're seeing there. It takes a few hours for the eggs to hatch. So these are the marks on the side of her face that I was talking about earlier. They're parallel, and remember they're yellow and kind of waxy looking, so they're post-mortem. There's no blood pressure to cause these to hemorrhage. They're occurring in the post-mortem interval. And because of their parallel like this, pretty much all running the same direction, that makes me think that there's a surface there that's now scraping across her skin. So to me, this means that the body has been moved in the post-mortem interval. Somebody's moved the body after death. And it also tells me a little bit about the insect activity too.
Thank you, sir. Now, next I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's exhibit number 347.
So,
explain to the jury what that is and the significance of that photograph, please.
So we talked about the photograph with the letter L in it before, and it's showing the right side of her head and right side of her neck. And here I talked about the stab wounds to the ear on the other side, and here I folded up the ear so we can see behind it. And you can see again the two parallel lines of where the stab went through the ear and then went into the neck. This is not a fatal wound. These two parallel wounds are not fatal, but they're of interest because it's helping us to identify the weapon. You can see some of the insect larvae are in her hair, and then there are some wounds here. This wound here goes into the skull and the brain, as does this one. Also, this wound here is somewhat unusual in that it has what we call a dog leg. Dog leg just means like an angle, and what it means is that the knife, either the knife or the body, they have turned relative with the blade in place. So if you stab this person and then you twist the knife, or they move their head, you can create this. You create this dog leg type of situation. So I know that and here I believe that the blade hit the skull and then was deflected, and that's what created this dog leg. Skull is very dense bone, has two tables, so there's like 2 layers of bone, and this would be a place where that would happen. The wounds on her neck, you can see them here. What's interesting of these wounds is that you can see that how they're kind of squared off at the back. This is a straight line, and it's sort of a V at this edge. So here, squared off V. These two don't show it as well, but that helps me to tell this is a single-edged knife, so it's not a double-edged weapon, and that the heel of the knife, the flat part of the top, is here, and the cutting edge is there. So it orients the knife relative to the body.
So, Dr. Beaver, as I hand to you again, State's exhibit number 225, I'm going to give you these gloves if you like. Holding State's exhibit number 225, that to you. That weapon, as you compare it to the actual sharp force injuries that Ms. Josephson sustained, tell us what your opinion is.
So this knife has the 2 parallel blades, and it would be stabbed like this. So, this knife fits. These are single stab wounds, so the knife would have to be like this for these. and it has a flat part here.
He's wrong
so
there.
the flat part would be like this. This one has a flat part too. This has a more serrated edge to it, and that leaves distinctive markings on the edge of the wound sometimes. I don't want to get into it, but I think this might be where this part of the saw blade was used, but it's too hard to say for sure.
Thank you, sir. Turn to the witness stand, if you would, please. Now, I'm going to show you what's, we talked about this briefly. Stage exhibit number 352. May I hand that back to you, sir? And just reorient yourself with that picture, if you would, please.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, in your 29 years as a pathologist, again, some 10,000 or so autopsies that you've done, do you always find DNA under fingernails?
No, sir.
Let's talk about that just a little bit with Stakes exhibit that I just handed you. What is it that you do during an autopsy when you photograph fingernails?
So during the autopsy, we use the autopsy as a means to collect evidence. So we clip the fingernails and place those into an envelope, and then that is turned over to law enforcement for analysis. So we take each fingernail and we have a clipper and we clip them, and then we put the clipper in with the fingernails. So they've got the clipper as well as the fingernails. In my experience, the DNA is hit and miss. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And there are so many places in which the specimen can be compromised. The first is that the person doesn't have any DNA under their fingernails. They didn't scratch anything, they didn't get that material.
I think that's good with his expertise.
Response.
Your Honor, he's a forensic pathologist. He's been doing this 29 years. He's examined over 10,000 bodies, and Judge, he's got an opinion as to why DNA wouldn't, if a person is doesn't have DNA under their fingernails, he's giving a reason why that would not happen based on his experience.
He hasn't been qualified in that area. He has sustained the objection.
Okay, so just 1 second. We're going to stop for a minute while the judge just sustains the objection, won't let him go into this area. We're going to talk a little bit about the tool because people have been asking questions. Let me show you my Leatherman. This is a Leatherman. This is a Leatherman brand, and I've opened up every single attachment. Yes, it looks crazy. It looks crazy, right? There's no way you use all of these, but if you're looking at this, we have on one side we have a screwdriver, a flat-bed screwdriver. We have a Phillips screwdriver. We have like a can opener, bottle opener, and a can opener all in one. On the other side, we have a little scissor kit that we can, use little crude scissors. That don't work very well, and two minor flat blade screwdrivers, and then one little, it's called an awl. It's like a little flat punch. So we can close all these blades down like that, and they fold into the handle. The other side, all the tools fold into the handle as well. Then if we look at the outside of the tool, so we have the pliers as well. We're going to talk about those in a second. But the outside of the tool has 4 tools, 2 on each side of the handle. And like this one here, the side of this is this is the wrong one. This is a saw. This actually has very, very serrated, I'll make it focus closer here. Here you go. It's going to have extremely serrated edges, like teeth on this one. Okay, so it's for cutting wood. It's for I can cut through a branch or something like that. Okay, it works very well. It's not very good at cutting cleanly because it's more about ripping and tearing. This was not the type of blade that he used. The other blade is a serrated blade, so it has, you can see the edge is not smooth. It has the serrations. Mine is more of a dull tip. His was a sharp tip on this one. So instead of rounding it off there, this side was sharp. On the other side, we have 2 tools. I've got a fingernail file. Okay, it's just a file on one side that and I can saw smooth things out that way. And the other is more of a traditional pocket knife blade. Now all the blades on the outside can be moved to the full extended position. Mine is so dirty. My knife is so dirty. And they lock into place, meaning that no amount of pressure can force them back down until I push a release on the handle. When I push a release on the handle, it will slide back down with very little pressure. So he had his knife, I believe, and this is where I think that the ME is wrong. I think he had it in this configuration where a single blade was out, and he was using that blade until it bent. And then he opened another blade like this, and then used both blades. I think that because it would be extremely difficult to use even the tool that opens his opens instead of at the hinge point, the blades come out on the end. It would be extremely difficult to use a tool with the handle in this position. Now, as far as the pliers go, the pliers they fold out, so they hide inside. This is the closed position. This is how you'd carry it on your belt. No tools out. It fits in a little holder on your belt, and you can grab it, pull it out, flip it open, sometimes even with one hand, and then you have a pair of ready to use pliers. They're very useful tools. Highly common to be used among people who are fishing. That's what I use this one for. But that's the lowdown on where that weapon came from. So give me a second. We just got a sustained objection from the judge talking about what we can't talk about.
Thank you.
So let's go back to this one here.
You talked about reasons here or there. You clip fingernails. You turn them over to law enforcement.
Mine was a gift from Mrs.
Done
R.A.
those things at that point in time.
Many years ago.
After you photographed the fingernails, do you do anything particular after that? Did you observe anything particular of her hands that were of interest to you and her nails?
She had injuries to her hands. Also, I don't think her nails were very long. As I recall, they weren't long. They were fairly short. So I don't know if that affects the recovery of DNA.
And so as we wrap up, you gave an opinion as to the cause of death here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The cause of death here was what?
Multiple stab wounds.
Okay. And the blade that actually inflicted those stab wounds was what?
It's the tool you showed me with the parallel knife blades.
States exhibit number 295?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all my questions at this time.
Cross-examination.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. May it please the court.
Yes.
This was a Christmas gift from Mrs. R.A. to me, and I've loved it. It's lasted probably more than 10 years, 12 years.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And you have a copy of your report with you today, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the date that you examined Ms. Josephson, that was March 31st, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And during that exam, you're wearing protective gear?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, gloves. Is that right?
Yes, gloves. Yes.
Wearing protective gear on your hair, on your head.
Yes.
To cover your hair.
Yes, ma'am.
And probably on your body. Right?
Yes. Yeah, we wear a plastic gown that goes over the head, has sleeves, actually hooks over your thumb. Then I personally wear 2 pairs of gloves, and I have a hat, and then I have a mask. And it's a paper mask similar to the ones that are here, like this.
Right.
And then I have booties on, and then under all that, I'm wearing scrubs. Clothing that stays in my office that doesn't go anywhere else. And
then a pair of
MBRC has a
tidy
service
whities.
machine. I turn the scrubs in and I get new scrubs every time.
Gotcha. And anyone else that would be present with you in that exam room, they would have protective gear on as well? At least gloves.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mom, with 2 plus 2.
For our technical staff, they all would, including a person that takes the x-rays. Sometimes law enforcement comes in and they don't.
You told us earlier that your exam starts by doing an external kind of view of Miss Josephson's body, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You take her weight.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? You indicate that she was 160 pounds at the time of autopsy.
Yes, ma'am.
She was 69 inches tall.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. They're laying down.
Long, I should say.
Yes.
69 inches long, and that is 5 feet 9 inches.
Yes,
is that correct? Otherwise, a healthy adult female.
Yes.
Okay. And you also, during your kind of external exam, you take note of the clothing that she has on.
Yes, ma'am.
And any notes about that you put in your report? Anything you observe?
Yes, my exam of the clothing is more superficial. Get the kind of clothing she has on, and general description. I don't go into detail examining the clothes because I'm going to take them off and I'm going to package them, and they're going to be sent to an evidence technician who's going to examine them thoroughly.
Because your job is related to examining the body.
Exactly.
In this case, it came with clothing on it.
Yes, ma'am.
On her. And you did mention in your report that you noticed defects in the clothing.
Yes, ma'am.
Specifically her shirt.
Yes.
And that it was heavily bloodstained.
Yes.
You go on to make notes about her fingernails.
Yes.
And in your report, you indicated that they were medium length at the time.
Okay.
Today, you're telling us that you thought they were fairly short in length?
Well, they're not long, let's put it that way. So I was in the idea of getting DNA under your fingernails. Long fingernails will be more effective in getting some kind of DNA under your fingernails than short ones. So hers are medium length, so probably a little bit longer than mine, but.
But you noticed that they were medium length.
Right.
And they would be, show you my nails, longer than my nails.
I think yours are about medium length. Maybe.
This is medium length.
Yeah. So if you can see, on short is no white. Okay, no white color.
But I have no white on my nails.
Hard to see your nails, but
But you were able to notice with the nails that she had evidence of tearing. That's what you put in your report.
Correct. Yes.
And at the autopsy on March 31st, you take the clippings.
Correct.
And along with the fingernail clippers that you clipped with, put those in a bag, right?
Correct.
An evidence bag.
Correct.
And those get sent off.
Yes.
Law enforcement takes those, right?
Yes.
Takes those back to the lab, right?
Yes.
And you go on to tell us about you notice that there are offensive wounds on her knuckles. Is that right?
I'm not sure what you mean by offensive wounds.
I believe you told us as it relates to picture 352, states 352.
Offensive wounds? So is she claiming self-defense in this one? Is he claiming self-defense?
No, are they up there? Is that 352 that you noticed on her knuckles?
Yes. So the discoloration is on this part of the knuckle. Well, do you want me to talk about this or not? Is there a question?
The question was, you noticed a defect with her knuckles.
Yes.
And that is on her I believe that her right hand, left hand, which hand is that?
It's the left hand.
And you told us on direct that was indicative of a blow.
I said that it could be blows or struck.
Okay, like she hit something.
Yes.
Okay. And on the flip, there was a stab wound to the other hand.
Correct.
And we call that a defensive wound.
Yes.
Something that you would see if somebody put up their hand to stop something from happening.
Yes.
And that went through and through.
Yes.
Jamie, welcome.
You also
thank you.
told us that Ms. Josephson experienced significant blood loss.
Yes, I believe so.
That it was difficult to even obtain a sample to send off for toxicology.
Yes.
And the deepest, and I'm just looking at your report here, and correct me if I'm wrong, the deepest wound we noted here was that 7 centimeters, I believe?
Yes.
And that was to her thigh, is that right?
Yes.
And 7 centimeters is what?
3 inches or
Less
so.
than 3 inches to, I think it's 2 3/4 maybe.
Okay.
And that's the deepest wound. I'm not gonna touch this, we've seen it plenty, but the weapon that we talked about here today, it opens up, you said. Is that right?
Yes, I had not seen the weapon before it was presented to me today, so I did not know that it opened up until I saw it this morning.
But you've been told, you had a conversation with the prosecutors in preparation for trial where a discussion about this multi-tool was had, right?
Yes, that was like a few days ago.
Mm-hmm. And during that conversation, you would say that some of the wounds are consistent with being made by the multi-tool in the open position and some in the closed position.
Correct.
So there was some information you had prior to today about what type of weapon was alleged to have been used.
Yes.
Okay. And then also at that time you told them there was evidence of offensive wounds because of the discoloration and defects you noticed on her knuckles.
I'm having trouble with this offensive wound thing.
And I'm just using the words that we were given that you would be testifying to.
Okay. So Do you want to hear what my problem is or not?
Sure, yeah, sorry, please.
Okay, so the knuckles that are in question are the ones that show defect are these here, like this one, and this one, and this one. Okay, so offensively, when you make a fist, mostly you hit these knuckles, not ones that are in, and not necessarily these. So I don't know exactly how those knuckles were injured. They could have been injured in throwing blows, but I'm not going to say that they are offensive injuries.
Okay.
It's a fine gradation of logic, but
I understand.
that's what I mean.
But based on that photograph and your observation, it appeared that she hit something.
Yeah, she hit something or something hit her.
Gotcha. And you described these wounds, and there are a lot of them. I believe you said there were over 120 or around 120.
Yeah, something like that.
And multiple stab wounds in a small area. That indicates to you close in time, or close together in space, close together in time.
Correct.
So this is a rapid, these are rapid stab wounds.
In my opinion.
Yeah, based on what you observed on the right-hand side of her shoulder, right?
Yes.
And that grouping of wounds there, right?
Yes.
Okay. And again, we have wounds all over her body, right? In all areas of her body, not covered completely, but they're not just on her head, not just on her torso, but she had some on her legs, her foot, her back, right?
Yes, she has wounds in many places.
And you were able to see those as you examined externally. You were able to see those and make notes.
Yes, ma'am, and photograph them.
And photograph. And did you do any measurements, or I guess you did mention that you had done a Google search to see if you could find anything, but did you, other than, did you measure the alleged weapon in this case?
I never even knew this weapon existed until a few days ago.
Okay. So it has two different blades, right?
Yes.
And then when it opens up, the blade there would be a blade on each end, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't know any of that until just a few days ago.
Okay. And you didn't get a picture of the weapon at that time?
No, and in fact, I sent law enforcement a picture that I thought might be the weapon just from my search of thousands and thousands of images of knives, and but it turned out to be something entirely different.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Beg the court's indulgence.
She wants to see the picture.
This was a long time ago.
Right.
I sent it literally within maybe 3 days of the autopsy, and then I haven't visited this autopsy since, until we had the discussions a few days ago.
Would that have been a South Carolina law enforcement division investigator?
It was somebody who came to the autopsy.
Somebody who came to the autopsy. Okay.
He probably used his work computer to search for that as well. There are knives out there that have parallel blades. He's just hasn't traveled in the right circles. You start going to certain conventions.
Thank you so much.
And you'll find some very strange fantasy-themed weapons.
You said that we keep getting bogged down in this term offensive wounds or offensive wounds.
Yes,
you essentially said that with her left hand, she hit something or something hit her, correct?
Yes, that's a better way to characterize it. And I'm sorry if I was unclear before.
What kind of things in the back of the car could a person hit?
The door, I suppose, the window. I don't really know. I don't know the car, so I don't really know.
And so based on your testimony, based on the cross-examination that I was just offered, you said essentially the knocking knuckles, as some people call them, is what was
exactly. What we would call the first interphalangeal joint, but this is the knuckles right here. Not the ones that are on your actual hand,
right,
but the ones that are on your fingers. The first one on your fingers. That's what's
kind
in
of
this
these
picture.
ones.
Exactly. So they could be, but they're not completely characteristic of offensive injuries.
Now, let's talk about the knife again. Is it possible to have a wound that's deeper than the length of the blade?
Yes, sir.
Explain that to the jury, please.
So when the skin is compressible, you can push in and it will give. So when the knife is pushed against the skin, the hilt of the knife, the handle, pushes in on the soft tissue and allows the blade to go deeper into the soft tissues. So it's fairly common to see wounds deeper than the length of the blade, particularly on the abdomen and on the chest area, but also on the thigh where there's a lot of soft tissue that can be compressed by the hilt of the handle of the knife.
And you saw that in this case?
I did not see that hilt or handle mark, which is sometimes good for us to see, but that's what I measured it. When I put the probe in and I pulled it out and I put it against the ruler, that's what the length was.
All right. And how long would it take a person to die from these wounds?
The injuries to the brain and the carotid artery are fairly severe and the bleeding would be profuse and very rapid. So I would say a matter of minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 20.
Okay. Court's indulgence, Your Honor. So that's all my questions. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You may step down. Thank you.
All right, as we wrap this one up,
Yes, sir.
I think we're going to take lunch here in just a minute. Let me just double check when we end. Yeah, I think we're taking lunch right now. So everyone, let's do this. Let's go to lunch, shall we? On that note, let me check and see where we are on everything. Oh wait, no, we can't. What? Why are we only 30 minutes into? We have one more hour.
Yes, sir.
The state calls Justin Martin.
Do you want to take lunch right now? Let's pause for a second. Hold on. 'Cause I'm hungry. Okay, here's the confession. I'm hungry, and I've got some soup. I've got some shrimp and corn soup waiting for me that I've never tried before in my life, but it sounded delicious because I like corn, and I like shrimp, and all I have to do is heat it up. So an early lunch. I think we're going to do that. Let's do a 45-minute lunch. Is that fair? That'll get us back here at about 12:20, roughly. 12:20. That's enough time to grab something to eat and come back and finish up what we're doing. All right. We will definitely do that here. Don't want a hangry RA. No. And I will say that surprise, Mrs. RA just came down. She's like, hey, can you grab me that chemistry book? So apparently she's all better. And so she's not up to doing a lot, but she is feeling a ton better. So thanks to everyone who asked about her. Breakfast is still sitting on my desk. It's about time to finish your breakfast because lunch is here, Valerie. Lunch is here. It's too early, says the girl with animals. But I'm hungry. I didn't eat breakfast. This is my fault. I did not have breakfast this morning. This is the longest day of the year. We have lots of time, says Rudy Patootie. It's not how it works, Rudy. I hate to break that to you. We have the same amount of time as every day. It's just we have a lot more daylight. Well, starting today, we have more daylight, right? Because it is what is it? Is it winter solstice or winter equinox? I forget which one's which, but I think that's today, which means from now on the days are getting longer. Spring is coming, you guys. Winter is here. Spring is coming. I think that's all. It's the shortest day. Shortest day of the year. Still 24 hours, though. Still 24 hours. That just means that the sunsets will start getting later and later. Yes. Can we give you a quick summary? Yes, Nathaniel Rowland appeared to have pretended to be an Uber driver, picked up a girl from a bar. The girl was waiting for an Uber. She was waiting for a black car. She was waiting for a driver that had some similarities in description to him, but he was not the Uber driver she was waiting for. She got in the car. He had enabled the child safety locks, which prevent someone opening the door from the inside. And we don't know exactly what happened from there on. We know that previously the defendant has been convicted of doing a similar thing, kidnap robbery of another woman. There was no murder involved in that case, and he did try to sell some of her property in that case. But in this one, it turned very, very violent. The victim was stabbed over 120 times. Her body was found the next day in a remote area by some turkey hunters. And it was not long until the defendant was picked up as well, because he was captured on video in the car. I think they had some great evidence, and the girlfriends all rolled over on him. They rolled over and ratted him out. They've testified in court. It was quite spicy. All right, that's all tonight. When you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone to make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again, which will be in about 40 minutes now. 40 minutes, roughly. It's going to be about 12:20. So catch you guys on the flip side. Thanks. See you later. Bye.
Scratch all that. Oh, that was terrible. I apologize.
What more do you need to see?